Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
You can! I don't know who created Pokemon Go. But I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, everyone. Dissidents, welcome one and all a pleasant good evening to you folks. My name is Keaton Weiss. This is a New Dissidents podcast here with Russell Dobular.
Hello.
Got a wonderful crowd in here to start the show, 319 strong. That's what we like to see. Please hit that like button and please hit that subscribe button if you are not already subscribed. We have an audience over in Rumble, too. We want to give our salutations over to our Rumble audience. Thank you very much. Russell debuting the new t-shirt on the public feed just there. Very nice, sir. Very nice. We have our friend Jake back in the house doing producing duties. He is in the studio with us, so he's keeping an eye over on the Rumble chat, folks. So I don't have you guys on my screen, but we have you guys all present and accounted for. So thank you guys all very much for being here. Got a lot of stuff to get to on a Sunday evening. Lots of dishes to serve up. Our final dish of the night, though, we're doling out the surf and turf, as I like to call it, which is Lance versus Anna. The surf and turf special.
The theater and porn.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I assume you mean porn. Is porn a subgenre I'm not aware of?
So
the theater and porn.
Yeah. We just
maybe
dropped
meant to say porn.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows?
Just looking for porn.
We won't make any assumptions there. But, we just dropped our little segment that we did. That was about a week ago that we did about the decline of live theater. I just clipped that today. So maybe that's what you were referring to. We thought that came out pretty good. Yeah, but lots of stuff to cover tonight. And we hope you guys are all settled in for a fun evening here. We have, as always, starting out the show, Russell Dobular with a little book recommendation now that he's got his bookshelves fixed and everything. What do you got this week?
I've got so many things that I thought were lost to the sands of time at my fingertips. Okay, so this is one of my favorites. I love Tom Wolfe, the author of The Electric Acid Kool-Aid Test, Bonfire of the Vanities. Earlier on, he wrote two essays that became a big hit, Radical Chic and Mau Mauing the Flatcatchers. And you can get it in an edition including both. So he coined the term radical chic with this essay. And it's one of those cases, I think a lot of people, if they read it now, they'll be surprised how much it resonates with a lot of things that we're experiencing now. So I always try to pick a book that relates to a segment that we're going to be doing. So the segment we're doing on Anna versus everybody, it's very much this cult of the dorkiest white people on the planet trying to ingratiate themselves with Olay. That's my read of it. And basically what Tom Wolfe describes back then is all of these very wealthy Upper East Side debutantes who would invite the farm workers to come and speak in their living rooms at a fundraiser. And he particularly digs down into a party that Leonard Bernstein wrote for the Black Panthers. And it sounds so cringe that you will cringe when you read it. Leonard Bernstein starts yelling at the Black Panthers that he's angry about his own wealth and asking them if it makes them angry. in the middle of this fundraiser, which they don't really know how to answer. They're trying to get money out of these people. Well, God damn it, it makes me angry. Like, just imagining them being put in this terrible position. That I was very reminded of that when I watched when this Anna thing first broke. A couple of the white boys, I don't know, maybe the guy from Serfs or whatever, they went on to Olay's show, and one of them actually said, I just want to say I'm really honored to be the first white people on your show. That I was like, this is radical chic. This is radical chic all over again. This is Leonard Bernstein's living room.
Well, they should call the show that. It's a better title than Leftist Mafia, right? Less cringy.
Radical Chic would be
a bad name for a podcast. It really isn't.
Well, it would be a perfect name for them. So once again, highly recommending this because it will definitely make you think everything old is new again, because it will resonate with a lot of things you see happening today.
Snow Himbo says, I still don't understand what's so turf about the shit Anna's saying. No, I just meant that as a play on words, because how often do you get a chance to make the surf and turf joke? Because Lance is a surf and she's a turf, right? It's a lob ball right down the middle. How can I not make that joke, right? So I'm glad Miss Officer got it. That's all I meant by that. Snow Himbo, as you will see.
Like where do you think we're gonna land on this? Come on.
No, but surf and turf is a good joke, is it not, Russell? I mean, you kind of stepped on it a little bit. It's a little bit. You stepped on a little bit.
Did I step on it?
Well, you read the chat right as I delivered the punchline. You read the chat.
I'm sorry, man.
Well, you insulted
I'm
him
sorry.
a little bit.
I didn't mean to. Hey, man, you totally fucked my AOC
I let it go this time.
Joke. I finally got back at you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, do it a little
Let me talk.
Yeah, that's what I gotta give you. That.
You killed that joke.
Where the fuck do you get the balls?
I wake up at night, so that's what I hear in my head.
Yeah, exactly. Folks, we got a lot to get to here tonight, so we're going to get started, as we always do, with some headlines, folks. And I thought that this headline was kind of interesting. We've kind of been starting off the show by doing some sort of, electoral politics speculation recently, since there seems to be, some sort of minor development happening just about every time we go on the air. But I thought this was significant here, and I'll tell you why. Trial in Trump documents case set for May 2024. Judge Eileen M. Cannon rejected former President Donald J. Trump's request to delay the trial until after the election, but pushed the start date past the Justice Department's request to begin in December. So that's all you really have to know right there. This is why we call this a headline. So the trial was set for December. Trump wanted it after the election, which I thought was kind of an extreme request. But then they said, all right, we'll do it in May. May 2024 seems like the worst possible time if you're Donald Trump to have this. Obviously, if you can push it till after the election, by the time it becomes time to prosecute you, you're already the president, which creates all kinds of constitutional problems, assuming he wins, right? So I understand why he would shoot for the stars and say, let's push it back a year. But if you're going to have it in either December of this year or May of next year, to me, what you have to do, if you're the Trump campaign, is you got to say, okay, let's do December. Because at that point, if we win the trial, we win the primary. Like that, it's that simple, right? Once you get a non-guilty verdict, that gives you tremendous momentum going into the primary states. Now, with the criminal trial coming up in May, that puts this huge cloud of doubt over the entire primary calendar. Because now almost all the states will have voted before the Republican primary voters get to learn whether or not he's going to go to jail or be found guilty. It seems like a really, really stupid time to try and push the trial back to. I understand the Hail Mary pass of trying to get it past Election Day, but figuring you weren't going to get that, to me, the most aggressive move would be, let's have the trial this year, and then if we win, then we pretty much have the primary on ice. And, so what this signals to me is either they were overly ambitious and tried to push it back too far, or they have some doubts about whether or not they can win, right? Because that tends to be that signals to me what the real play was.
I think they had no good options. If the trials.
Well, yeah, of course, there's no good options. He's indicted. and he's going to trial. So, yeah, I mean, that sucks all around.
Right. And I think maybe pushing it back to May. I am not a lawyer, in case y'all didn't know. I don't know if he's thinking he can pardon himself if he gets convicted, if he pushes it back to after he's sworn in. I maybe they're thinking that. There's never been something like this before. Can a president pardon themselves if they're convicted while they're in office? I don't know.
Well, once he's in office, you can't just convict him, right? Once you're in office, this is what I mean. It creates a constitutional problem because he's been indicted as a citizen, but now he's president. So now what do they do?
Right. They would probably have to stop the trial, so that's probably why he did it.
No, that's why I understand why he wanted it pushed back until after November 2024. But what I'm saying is, figuring they weren't going to be granted that, wouldn't you rather get it over with in December? This way, if you win, at least that trial is out of the way. One non-guilty verdict would have such a massive political impact. I really think it would. Like, if they fire at him now and they miss with these criminal trials, forget it.
That's very high risk, high reward.
It is, but this seems to be almost the highest risk because now the entire primary process is going to be done with this cloud of doubt over it, right? Now his opponents are going to be able to say, listen, in May, they could send this guy to jail. Then what do we do? By that point,
is he going to be able to
the primary's already over. Right?
Isn't he,
so this is a super high risk. This is really incredibly high risk.
Yeah, but he's facing 3 charges with a 4th pending, right?
Yeah.
So some of these are gonna happen after the election. I mean, just the way the legal process works. Not even political manipulation, just the reality of how courts work.
Well, sure thing. But what I'm saying is if you get one trial out of the way before the primary starts, and that brings back a not guilty verdict, that basically seals the primary.
Sure,
I think.
Sure.
Because it just gives him such an argument.
That is an enormous if, and I think they probably said, the odds aren't good enough to go that way.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to ride the look at this persecution of a former president. People say they've never seen anything like it. It's amazing. It's very scary what's happening in this country. They figure they're better off playing that than risking him literally being in prison.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, what I'm saying is if they get a guilty verdict at whatever stage of the campaign a guilty verdict comes down, that's pretty much the end of the campaign. Right? I know people have this idea that he can run from prison and win. No, he cannot. He's not going to win from prison. He doesn't have the kind of margins necessary to win from prison. Right? You got to be up by 20 points in order to have a shot at winning from jail. Right? You're not going to win from prison when the race is tied as it is. So I think, either way you slice this, it's high risk, high reward. But I think this makes him more vulnerable in the primary now. I think they have to feel fairly confident going into a trial because the dynamic is going to be the same, right? Whether he's the official Republican nominee or what do they call it? Presumptive nominee, or whether he's the favorite by 30 points, right? They're going to be able to claim this is election interference, right? This is a political prosecution. Like, that's going to be their line no matter what. So if I'm them, I would rather get it out of the way early, win. I don't think any of these cases are particularly strong against him. I think he could probably win them. And so, if I were him, I'd want to just do it now. Win it and put the primaries on ice, which is what would happen if he won it. But the primaries in the Republican field are still lopsided in Trump's favor. We have been talking a lot, of course, about the Trump-DeSantis match. DeSantis's campaign having its problems. Now they're having to deal with the slavery was not all dissimilar from community college fallout. They learn valuable skills. So that's you
could open a garage.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's the latest
make
the latest hit from the Ron
gumbo.
DeSantis campaign. Yeah, the latest banger, courtesy of the Ron DeSantis campaign. So they're having a little bit of trouble here, and one person who seems to be benefiting is Vivek Ramaswamy. So we have an article. Before we put the article up, I'm just going to share a little bit of data with you guys here. This is a 2024 national Republican primary poll, courtesy of Kaplan Strategies, which has Ramaswamy and DeSantis tied at 12%, which is good for second place against Trump's 48. Trump below 50 in that poll. Most of these polls have him above 50. And then in the latest poll, which registered on the Real Clear Politics average, the Harvard-Harris poll, you had Ramaswamy cracking double digits there at 10 points. Now, of course, as Russell and I both agree, despite him being more bullish on DeSantis than I am, it would take a collapse of Donald Trump's support in order to give anybody a chance. And that collapse, if it were to come anywhere, would probably come from one of these prosecutions that he's going to be facing. We now formally know basically three are, two are definitely in the books. A third one is almost certainly coming, and then a fourth likely coming on the heels of that. But what this looks like, because I saw some people in the chat last time talk about how Vivek would actually get a lot of Trump's second choice votes, not Meatball Ron. And I don't know mathematically what the deal is on that right now. But what I will say, because I've mentioned the New York mayoral primary in the past, where you had Bill de Blasio polling not second to Anthony Weiner, but third behind Anthony Weiner and Christine Quinn. And then what happened, a few weeks before that primary was set to take place, Anthony Weiner's support collapsed because he had another Weiner incident, right? And so what happened there was because Anthony Weiner and Christine Quinn were such bitter rivals and their supporters hated each other so much, Weiner's support went almost entirely to... I know, this makes it hard to talk about.
It's impossible to talk about this guy without double entendres.
Exactly.
We tried the other day, because we're going to do a segment about an interview he did.
Once Weiner went down. Once his Weiner came back down.
All right, so are we going to hold Weiner until Wednesday?
Weiner was up. Weiner was up, and then Weiner came down.
And
once Weiner came down, right, exactly.
He shot his load.
Yeah, exactly. Once Weiner shot his load and his campaign just completely collapsed, because there was such a bitter rivalry between him and Quinn, his supporters went almost entirely to de Blasio, which means de Blasio went from a distant third to front runner in the Democratic field. And so what I think a lot of these like third tier Republican primary candidates are hoping is they can be the beneficiary of a certain thing, especially if DeSantis and Trump get really, really heated, right? If that rivalry becomes so intense that now DeSantis is no longer the second choice of Trump's voters, Vivek could maybe catch a wave there. Unlikely to happen at this point, but that possibility does look a little more likely now that we see a polling bounce from Vivek Ramaswamy, who does carry a lot of that Ron DeSantis anti-woke messaging with a far less punchable face. And so that's his strength as a candidate.
Well, unfortunately, I put together a video for the show of Ramaswamy highlights. Okay, one mistake that he's making as a candidate is he's only making news on shows that are whiny little bitches about using their clips.
Right.
So listen, if you're going to make news, don't do it on Blaze and don't do it on the Breakfast Club. Okay, go make fucking news on Meet the Press. We can use Meet the Press all day long. They need all the eyeballs they can get. Nobody watches that shit anymore. But Ramaswamy is interesting. He's definitely a more natural politician than DeSantis in terms of his on-camera abilities. Also, if you look at where he's made news, he is making a certain kind of conservative argument that I think a lot of lefties are not aware of. It's what do you call it? It's it's a person of color kind of a conservative argument. It's a conservative argument that very often you'll hear more from Black conservatives and from Latino conservatives, people who feel that welfare programs can be very damaging to the community, that value, that feel that those more traditional conservative values are better for their communities, that are very skeptical of having open immigration. So, for example, he was saying on the Breakfast Club that his parents had to pass a citizenship test, and he felt that high school students, native-born high school students, should have to pass the same kind of test, that they should be able to pass such a civics test. So I don't know her name, the woman on Breakfast Club. I don't watch it on the regular. I just know Charlemagne. But she clearly hated him and was, really trying to go in on him. And so she was trying to illustrate his civics, and she got into it saying, all right, so my people built this country, and your parents immigrated here with you, and you've never really contributed anything to civic life. And the conservatives love this, because when you looked at their coverage on this, they were like, yeah, look at how he's being treated as an immigrant on this show. And he answered very well. He stopped. He said, hey, my parents immigrated here legally, and I was born here, which obviously he's running for president. Like, I don't know where she thought she was going with that, to say something like that. And she came in on him very hard, asking him if he had been class president. I mean, all this just asinine kind of stuff about what he's contributed to the society and civics. And look, that was a tough room to be in, and he handled it very well. And I think what he's articulating is a point of view that Democrats, liberals, and the media that parrots them do not like to acknowledge exists. They do not want to acknowledge that there is a very strong strain of conservatism that is not MAGA necessarily, that is not white. They want to define conservatism and the entire panoply of conservative perspectives and philosophy as white, so that they don't have to take on these kinds of arguments. Ramaswamy is, being Indian, he's able to articulate these things. And I think a lot of people are responding to it. I have always felt the idea that a lot of liberals have, that the Republicans are racist. Yeah, not really. I mean, there are some, sure. I think the average Republican would like nothing better than to nominate a person of color who articulates those points of view. That's the dream, because then you can't they'll find a way to play identity politics, but it really disarms a lot of them. It would be very difficult if the Republicans were actually not running a white person to pull that on them. So the average Republican, are they going to walk around and be like, I don't know, I like his ideas, but he's Indian? No. If that's what you want to tell yourself, or liberals want to tell themselves, to avoid taking on the substance of his argument. Whether you like what he's saying or don't like what he's saying, he's handling himself very well. He handled himself very well with Tucker, with his January 6th answer, with what he's had to say about family values and family institutions. He articulates all the anti-woke stuff that DeSantis does, but as you say, with a less punchable face. He sells it better.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think he kind of gives you that midway point between DeSantis and Trump. Like, that's just kind of what I see. He just, he has more charisma than DeSantis has. And, he articulates a more nationalist vision than like the normie Republicans or like the neocons like Nikki Haley. Like, the Tim Scott thing is really not going to catch on. It's old, been there, done that. The Nikki Haley thing is way from yesterday. I mean, you're talking 20 years ago, right? I think Ramaswamy hits a certain ideological sweet spot that makes him an interesting second choice for the MAGA people. Now, it's still going to take a total collapse of Trump in order for him to catch on. And as that New York Post article says, which you've had, I don't know if you have that ready, but Trump world is actually being less hostile to Ramaswamy, right? They're going easier on him for now, because I think there's just less of a rivalry there.
Yeah, so, they're basically trying to boost him to hurt DeSantis. So just a little bit of this from the Post. This just dropped today. Some allies of Donald Trump appear giddy over GOP foe Vivek Ramaswamy's recent uptick in the polls because it means the entrepreneur is gaining on the former president's hated key rival, Ron DeSantis. Now, remember, if Ramaswamy were to overtake DeSantis, he would be Trump's new hated rival. He's just, he's playing the game.
Well, the other theory that I just have to pose here is that if Ramaswamy can overtake DeSantis, but his numbers remain low, it'll actually serve to help Trump quite a bit. At which point, Ramaswamy is in the conversation for a VP. Right? Or something like that. Right? Like, it's one thing to overtake DeSantis. It's another thing to overtake DeSantis and get as close enough to Trump to actually pose a threat. But either way, he seems to be on his good side.
Well, the question is, would his ego allow him, if he felt like you were in striking distance, not to attack Trump? Because once you attack Trump, he's too much of a child to ever let that go.
Once you get in striking distance, yeah.
Ramaswamy, who is now clocking in at 5.9 percentage points. So let's not get it twisted, man. I mean, you got one outlier poll that hasn't really gained.
Well, there was two that had him, one at 12, one at 10. And look, the point is, I don't think anybody's getting within striking distance of Trump until Trump implodes. Right? So, like, once Trump implodes, you can have a very sudden shift. That's exactly what happened in the New York City Democratic primary.
Yep.
Nobody was close to Weiner. Weiner imploded, and then de Blasio shot up to number one. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take a cataclysmic event to bring Trump down. So that's what we're all talking about here. We're not talking about him inching his way up and then overtaking him. It's going to take a big development to give any of these other candidates a chance.
Yeah, that's something we both agree on.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be I like the cut of that fella's jib. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be Trump becomes too big a risk. And, the old saying, American politics changes overnight. I saw somebody commented on the Joe Biden, Indiana Jones video I did that Trump isn't leading. He was when I did that video. Now the trend is the other way. Now the national polls, a few national polls now have been in Biden's direction. So that's how quickly that flipped.
And there was another one today, the Harvard-Harris poll, the same one that had Vivek polling decently well, did have Trump up 5 over Biden. So it's close. It's close. It's going back and forth. It's a tie, basically. That's what the average says, and that's basically what it is.
Right, and I would buy that.
Yeah.
So Ramaswamy is now clocking in at 5.9 points in Real Clear Politics average. Toppled former Vice President Mike Pence at 5.7. I can't imagine why Mike Pence would be down there in the basement. They tried to hang you. Jesus Christ. What the hell are you doing? Take a hint. Take over a distant third place among Republican hopefuls behind Florida Governor Ron DeSantis at 19.3 and Trump at a commanding 51 points. And unlike many of Trump's rivals who often face the wrath of his supporters, the 37-year-old Ramaswamy's rise appears to be getting a somewhat warm reception. So you have here one of Trump's people. Ha ha. Even Vivek's people are calling out the ridiculous excuses for terrible polling numbers from Team DeShambles. Oh, that came from Trump. That's a Trumpism if I ever heard one.
Team DeShambles. I like that.
Actually, that's a lot better than DeSanctimonious.
Yeah.
They literally think every poll is paid for by Trump. Team Ramaswamy is knocking at Ron's door. So all right. So they're gonna troll him in the hopes that his numbers completely collapse. Both of us, we agree, have the theory that it's going to take an implosion in Trump's poll numbers. I personally believe all of these legal troubles and lawsuits eventually are, and what he does on the debate stage, because these guys are not meatballs. These guys look a lot better than that 2016 field did.
Yeah,
they're not looking like Jab,
now,
like
he might not do a debate. He might just say, "Why would I debate if I'm up 40?" I think it's going to take something bigger. I think it's going to take something bigger.
You think he's going to refuse?
Maybe. I mean, if he's up by 40, what does he have to gain from doing it? He can only lose if he's up 40.
Sure.
Especially since he's not as good a debater as some of these guys. You're not dealing with Jeb Bush, and whoever the hell else it was back then.
They're not such easy targets.
No, and now they're versed in Trumpism, right? Trumpism caught the Republican field off guard in 2016.
Right.
It was still Mitt Romney's party. Now these guys they've read the book, right? They know the lines that they got to hit, right? So it's going to be harder in a debate. That's why he might not do it. Let's take some super chats.
I mean, in the end, look, Ramaswamy is a more natural politician than Ron. Right. If Trump collapses, my money would still be on DeSantis. If the Republican electorate en masse turn to somebody, they're going to turn to the one with a list of accomplishments that are right in their wheelhouse.
All right.
Like, they might like him. I don't think they're going to make him the nominee.
Time will tell. Brits man, thanks for the $2. Come for the Hebrew host, stay for the Vanguard roast. Thank you very much for the $2. We appreciate that. Folks, thank you very much for your super chats. They are super helpful. Patrick Donahue, thanks for the €10. Some Kyle bashing. Count me in. Yes, we are getting to it. We're getting to it. Russell, why don't you get your singing bowl ready? Big donation from Joyce.
Oh, snap.
$50.
Oh,
very
Joyce.
Generous. Joyce, also a member. Thank you, Joyce.
I'll even give you the rim job.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for the $50. Let's rock and roll Kyle into oblivion. We are getting to that segment. Just a reminder to Jake, those member chats, if you can flag some of those, which I think I see you have, which is perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Jake. How about a round of applause for Jake, who's volunteering his time to play our producer tonight. Very, very grateful for Jake to be here, helping us out. Eric Husso, thanks for the $5. Will the fake Slim Shady please sit down? Kind of like some Ken doll. Dumb. Yeah, it's funny, guys. Now the Vanguard strategy of closing up to Kyle is starting to make a little bit more sense, because with them getting next to Kyle is actually making them look smart when you put them next to him, right? And so maybe it was a good plan. Maybe it was a good business move all along. Who knew?
Was what I texted to Keaton after I watched the video we're going to cover today. I said he actually made them look smart by comparison in that interview.
Exactly. Willie Bragg. Thank you, Willie Bragg. Appreciate the $5, my friend. The Vanguard is the Beavis and Butthead of the online left, but less entertaining, and Kyle's hair dye turned him into a Biden bro. Yeah, we are getting to that. We will get to that in due time. Don't worry, folks. We're not going to keep you up all night here. We got a tight show planned. Let's go to another headline. We have more super chats. We will get to those for sure. We promise. This is a quick one, but a fun one. As we know, folks, every summer, President or former President Barack Obama, he'll always be president to me, he tweets out his summer playlist, right? A collection of songs that he's vibing out to on Martha's Vineyard, right? That he puts, in his Bluetooth headphones when he goes for his morning jog between bedrooms, right? The old 12-bedroom run that he does every morning here.
We sent those Mexicans up to the army base, right? I'm not going to run into any of them when I go jogging. We got rid of those people.
Exactly.
We gave them a juice box.
Right.
Before they went.
Took good care of them, right?
Took good care of them. Gave them a bag of peanuts before we sent them up there.
It's the right thing to do.
Go for a job. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Come on now. I'm not going to send you out empty-handed. That's not the Obama way. So as you can see in the little box there that I made, Not Strong Enough by a female supergroup, an indie supergroup called Boy Genius. And so it gave them a nice little shout out. I mean, this is huge. You get a ton of press. You probably get a ton of plays, a ton of downloads, a ton of interest when you are featured on Barack Obama's summer playlist. The guy has, obviously over hundreds of millions of Twitter followers. So, right, what a big boost for your band. You'd think they would tweet out something very generic and, platitudinous and, cringy in response. But no, this is how they thanked him. One of the singers of the band just tweets out in a quote, "War criminal, sad." And look, she didn't find the biggest audience with that response, but she probably found the most loyal audience in that response, because I'm certainly inclined to check out that band now that they tweeted that out, and I know I'm not alone in that. So let's everybody, round of applause for Boy Genius, and go find them on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your music. That's pretty ballsy. I mean, you just never see that. You never see that, especially amongst like professional artists and entertainers.
I liked this band better the first time when they were called the Indigo Girls. But if you did like the Indigo Girls, you'll probably like this Xerox copy of the Indigo Girls.
Is that what they sound like? Did you listen to them?
I did, because we were doing the segment. So they
you prepared for the segment.
I did prepare.
Nice.
I always prepare.
Nice work. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to listen to the song.
I listened to the song and I was like, this is it's a little sad to me. It's why I don't listen. And I don't want to take away from this. Like, that's a ballsy gesture, because you respond to that positively. It probably opens the door to a lot of gigs. And they're all indie. They were kind of, from what I researched, they were like kind of big separately in indie music, and they decided to join forces and work together. Their name, Boy Genius, actually comes from their frustrations with working with men who have basically never been told to shut the fuck up, who think they're geniuses. So whenever they would doubt themselves in their creative sessions, they go, no, just go Boy Genius. Just say it. Just go ahead. So man, I can see that. They seem cool and all, but a big part of why I don't listen to new music is because nobody has an original idea. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I would love to have listened to it and been like, oh shit, wow. I was like, what do we do in 1994? Like, what is this? Is that what's happening in indie music now? Like, they just never moved past 90s, the 90s sound. Like, it sounds exactly like something you would hear on the radio in 94.
Yeah, I will have to listen to it. I'll have to listen to it. There are some good stuff on his list there. Actually, he doesn't have terrible taste in music. I'll grant him that. There's that band called The War and Treaty that he had on there. They're pretty good. I think they're a husband and wife duo. They're like it's like a soul folk duo. That they're actually quite good from what I've heard of them. So check out The War and Treaty. Although they were not based enough to, tell Barack Obama to go fuck himself after featuring him on the list. So obviously, go to Boy Genius first. But yeah, I was very, very impressed by that. Just a brief bit of good news.
Yes, yeah, sure. They seem like very cool women. I wish I liked the music more, or found it more original.
Well, what are you gonna do? There's a few people like that who I like as people, but never really dug their content. I'm trying to think of who would be a perfect example of that. Mike Myers. Mike Myers always seemed like kind of a cool guy in interviews and stuff. I just never found him all that funny.
Yeah, if you needed to hire a band to write you music for a 1993 period piece about a girl band, these would be your people.
All right,
they would be perfect for that. But it's not to pick on them. I think that's industry wide. I mean, it's kind of interesting because this kind of music is not really mainstream anymore. It's a niche, right? Like, hip hop has kind of taken over that space. So I don't hear a lot of what's happening in that scene. So it was very weird to hear it and be like, wow, so really? It just is just going to keep doing mid-90s pop? That's what's going on with indie?
Well, that's true.
Music?
It is broadly true that, I mean, and look, the indie music world is so big now. There's so much stuff now because of streaming, right? So it's hard to define indie music as one thing. But a lot of what used to be called 90s adult alternative is now called indie.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
The sort of non-threatening acoustic. Some of it's good, but it's that kind of thing.
This wasn't bad.
Right.
It was the way I feel about a lot of things. I liked it better the first time and the second time and the third time. Was this the 25th iteration of the same exact musical idea? Why would I listen? I'll just go back and listen to the originals.
Exactly. CBCDs. Why does 2/3 of Boy Genius not hate Obama? Good question. Good question.
We should get him on the show and grill them about that.
We should have a debate. We should get all three of them here.
After that monologue, I think I blew that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't think we're getting them.
Exactly. Maybe they should start a political podcast and fold up the band. Maybe that would make you happier.
And hey, I half-ass play piano. You play guitar. We could go into music. We'll switch.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Right? We'll be like the Simon and Garfunkel with no talent.
Exactly. Yeah. Franklin Worsham, thanks for the $4.99. Friday's Harvard Harris poll. Trump up by 5, but don't look for it to be covered by Mika and Joe tomorrow. Yeah, I know. That one will get less press. There's a lot of interesting stuff in that poll. I actually did a little bit of a deep dive into that poll when I was prepping for the show. Something like, 62% of Americans, think Joe Biden is unfit to run again because of his age and mental state. 70% of Americans don't want him to run. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of stuff in there. That was definitely not a good poll for Joe Biden in any of the results, not just the overall 5-point deficit to Trump, but there was a lot of bad news for him in that poll. Franklin, thanks again for the $2. Discovery for a federal case is usually 6 months. So yeah, no, but they were going to schedule it. This was the documents case, right? So what was that? That was, when did it break that he was going to face arrest for that? That was, no, because the cowbell thing was not the documents thing. The cowbell thing, that was in April, but that was the prostitute one, or the porn star, not the prostitute.
That was the porn star, yeah. Don't get them confused.
That's very unwoke to do that. Yeah. But yeah, no. So that was the first one. So then this one was what, 6 months? Yeah, but it still was last month. Was the documents one? So they could have done it at the end of the year, and now they're pushing it back. Caleb. Thank you, Caleb. I don't remember seeing you here before, but thanks for being here tonight. Thank you all for being here tonight, by the way. Please hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. We need those likes. Let's see if we can get some more people in here. Big crowd in here, 876 strong. Thank you all for being here very, very much. Caleb says, thank you for doing the work, gentlemen. Well, thank you for watching the work, Caleb. Folks like you, RBN, Jimmy, etc., have kept me sane these past few years. My small contribution. Peace and love. Well, peace and love to you, my friend. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Lars and Rune, more peace. Wow, we got a nice little hippie crowd in here tonight. Nice, good vibes in here. A lot of love in the air. Love in the air. Good vibrations. Good vibrations, which is a change of pace for this show, as our regulars will know.
Absolutely.
Dwayne says Vivek. No, also.
I like that. I'm going to steal that from you. Use that.
That could be Trump's nickname if he ever gets too up in his grill in terms of the polling.
Maybe you'll get a job in Trump White House too.
Exactly. Brathwaite Bone Spurs Quackerbush IV. I like that screen name, and I love your compliment and your generous donation. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Abiding. Thanks for the 99 cents, my friend.
You,
always appreciated. And Mr. Methuselah.
We're gonna find out one day that guy's a fucking billionaire.
Right, exactly.
He just likes
doles
to
it out in small doses. Right, exactly. Thank you, Mr. Methuselah, for the $20. It's very kind of you. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. You. And Charlie likes your shirt. Russell has a kick-ass T-shirt. Yes.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Like that one as well.
I special ordered that one.
It
was one time the algo read me right. It fed me that ad, and I was like, God damn it, you're right.
Damn, you win. All right, you win this time.
You win this time. I swear to God, Facebook, they've gotten better. For a year, Facebook thought that I really needed to join a lesbian dating group. I took comfort in that because I felt, well, I mean, AI is never taking over the world at this rate.
And they're not doing a great job spying on you.
Exactly. I think it was so primitive that because I know a lot of lesbians, it just said, hey, this person knows lesbians. Let's put them in a lesbian dating group.
Yeah. All right, let's do another headline here, folks. We're going to start our main segments pretty soon. But we have another headline here. Some word from the Satanic Temple. Is that right, Russell?
Yes. So, this has been a really rough couple of years for not only Fox, but Fox viewers, because they're gradually finding out that the network they thought was on their side is filled with gender non-conforming Satanists. Fox News whistleblowers, apparently some of them are upset about it, reveal company support of Satanists, abortionists, and left-wing charities. So Fox News matches employee donations to numerous left-wing charities and activist groups, according to a report from Blaze Media, while putting on airs of supporting conservative causes.
By the way, Blaze Media, is it okay to show your fucking paragraph?
Yeah,
you know, they copyright claim those
assholes.
videos of their Tucker summit. That's why we didn't clip them.
That's why we couldn't use the Ramaswamy one.
Fucking Glenn Beck steals all the ad money because they can't. First of all, it's fair use, so they can go fuck themselves. But Glenn Beck, I mean, the other guy did that too. The drunk with the swollen face. What's his name? James O'Keefe. O'Keefe. Yeah. He claims the stuff that we use for the BlackRock stuff. But him, I kind of understand because he's going through some legal troubles. Now he's probably low on cash. Glenn Beck is a rich man. What do you got to be copyright claiming people who are covering your stuff for fair use, right? Not cool. Not cool. Just want that put out there. Anyway, sorry.
Okay, so, well, that gave me some time to jump ahead anyway. All right, so while putting on airs of supporting conservative causes, Fox will apparently match employee charitable contributions to the Satanic Temple, the Trevor Project, Planned Parenthood, and the Southern Poverty Law Center. The Trevor Project runs anonymous online forums where children can get advice from adults on their gender and sexuality. In September of last year, a Brooklyn, New York mom found out her child was getting advice from adults on where to secretly obtain a chest binder. To be fair, I sent her to a discount outlet. So jumping ahead a little bit, Fox pretends to care about Christians, but some of the stuff they push internally suggests otherwise. Glory holes, trans surgeries for kids, and potential donations to Satan are a huge slap in the face to every Christian at the company, and we resent it, one current Fox employee said to Blaze Media. It offends me personally that this company acts like they support Christians, yet they're literally willing to match $1,000 donation to the Satanic Temple. You gotta love it. Okay, so another thing here, this is kind of interesting. It's a little side topic. It became clear certain things weren't going to be tolerated on air anymore after Tucker was gone. We were told, lay off Dylan Mulvaney. Once I realized we couldn't say certain things on air anymore, I started to dig more into the reality of the corporate views. All right, so we covered this a little bit once before. This is the thing. You're going to be hard pressed to get people who have gone to college for communications who are really on board with what Fox purports to be. That's my interpretation of a lot of why they're uncovering so much reality that actually Fox News is just a bunch of libs who took the check and not actually committed conservatives. So the Satanic Temple. Oh, right. You have that image, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the Satanic Temple is actually pretty interesting. They are not Satanists in the true sense. I mean, if there are satanic organizations, I mean, I guess there are some around. They really don't advertise or publicize. These guys are basically social justice oriented liberals who are using the Satanic Temple, which is set up as a legal religion, to troll conservatives. So, for example, they created a statue of their dark god. I don't know how you say it, Baphomet. And when the Alabama courthouse put the Ten Commandments outside, they demanded the right to put the statue next to them. And actually, there was just a hearing about that a month ago. That case has been going on for 5 years. They're suing for the right to put a very similar statue to this in front of the Alabama State Courthouse, arguing, well, if you're going to put one religious symbol, well, then you have to let us put this here. The reason we're looking at Sabrina the Teenage Witch is they actually got a lot of publicity when they sued Netflix for stealing their design. They had a specially designed statue of Baphomet. People in the chat, tell me if I'm saying that right. Baphomet. So now, if you look at the credits of Sabrina, that was part of the settlement. The Satanic Temple is credited now in all of the episodes for their design. And what's interesting and what really shows you they're not really Satanists is they didn't like the fact that this was like an evil satanic witch school that had this symbol, because they argued that's not what they're about. So here's a little bit from the Satanic Temple, the kind of thing they do. All right, so this is very revealing. So they're suing Texas on the grounds that abortion is part of their religion. So you get the idea. They're basically trying to turn these religious arguments back on themselves.
Yeah, they should have an Act Blue link.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of interesting. And I assume they got into suing therapists, particularly ones that practice recovered memory therapy, because that was what drove the satanic panic, was allowing that kind of therapy, which studies had already shown have a lot of potential to implant rather than uncover memories. This also, any school that's kind of pushing religious instruction, they use the fact that they're a religion to counter that. I looked at their after school program. I mean, like, it's a pretty normal after school program. Again, they're using this Satan label to troll after school Bible studies and things like that. And then they have a kind of 12-step thing. And they encourage people to go out in their communities, work with animals, be kind, all that. So, I mean, it looks like, I can't say I've really investigated, but from what I know of them, they're kind of doing some stuff that in a humorous way is aligned with what the ACLU used to do. And actually, the ACLU in this particular case is a joint plaintiff with them in that Alabama case. So this is what Fox News is giving its money to. So it's not that they're really giving their money to Satanists, but people who watch Fox News, it's even worse. They're giving their money. They're giving their money to liberals,
right. Democrats. Right, it's even worse than Satanists.
They're giving their money to Democrats. Now I pulled this down from the shelf. I'm not recommending this or anything, Ellen. But here's the Satanic Bible by Anton Sandor LaVey. Now they have, I believe their overall organization is called the First Church of Satan. They're a little deeper into the cosplay of being Satanists, but even they're not Satanists. If you read this, you know what it is? It's like the Libertarian Bible. It reads like the Libertarian Bible. Don't turn the other cheek. If someone hits you, hit back twice as hard. Don't waste your time on psychic vampires. Give your time and energy to people who are worthy of it. Don't waste your time on weaklings. I mean, it sounds like if Mark Zuckerberg were to write a theological treatise, I think it would probably read a lot like the Satanic Bible. But the Satanism is cosplay in both cases.
Right. Yeah, no, it's an interesting story. I mean, we've talked a little bit about that before, about how the Fox News, what's on camera doesn't necessarily match the kinds of people who put it on camera, which I will remind everybody, Fox News headquarters located on 47th Street and 6th Avenue in Midtown Manhattan. They don't broadcast from a prairie out in Kansas. You know what I mean? So you always got to keep that.
They are right across the street from the NBC.
Exactly. Rumble rant from Stone. Thank you very much, and thanks, Jake, for catching this. Keep rolling with Anna content. I'd like to bathe in Anna content all over my body. We will get to it shortly, folks. We will get to it shortly. We're going to start our main segments in just a moment. We have one more headline, which we'll incorporate into the rest of the show, but we do have a very special guest who is waiting in the back room. We will get to you in just a moment here. We just have to first encourage everybody to go to patreon.com/do-dissidents and help support this program. Patrons and paid Substack subscribers get their name up in lights here on this scroll, as well as call-in access to these live streams and access to 2 supporter-exclusive streams per month, which we do as private links over on Rumble. For those, like we said on Friday, we had a bit of a technical mishap on Rumble's end at the very end of our last one. That video is up in its entirety, emailed out to Patreon members and paid Substack subscribers. So that is all taken care of. It was a great show. We're going to do another one before the end of the month. Those are the perks that you get for supporting us through Patreon and Substack. You can also support us through YouTube. You can hit that join button right next to the subscribe button and become a monthly supporter here through YouTube. That's very helpful as well. Super chats are very helpful. We're doing 3 shows a week now, so Patreon memberships, Substack memberships, and super chats are all very helpful to keep this operation afloat. We thank you all very much for that. We do have a little bit of a program note. So Russell mentioned how on Wednesday we're going to cover an Anthony Weiner segment. We also have a shit post that we're going to try to get ready for you by then. That's Russell's shit post. My country music shit post is going to be done by the end of this week. That's a little more complicated than I thought because I remembered I can't play clips from music, so I'm going to have to figure out a way to present the materials without actually playing music, which is going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I will figure it out. But on Wednesday, we're going to do a new Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger very sort of thorough lab leak report, as well as an Anthony Weiner appearance. We're going to break down and react to an Anthony Weiner appearance on the PBD, what's his name, Patrick Bet David show, where he started getting into the Clinton Schmill list, the Clinton thrill list, as we will call it here. He gets into that, and Weiner reacts in a way that is just...
He died.
Yeah, exactly. Weiner's reaction to that is pretty hilarious. And it's not that we can't play any of that on YouTube. A lot of that stuff is on YouTube. I don't trust myself to react in a way that's YouTube friendly, since I've looked into the Clinton thrill list quite a bit. And so I do want to get into that the way it deserves.
That's why it needs to be on Rumble.
Right.
And
exactly.
Also for my radar shit post, which hopefully I will be able to have ready for Wednesday. I think I mentioned this. I wanted to do a more extended shit post about exactly why so many conservatives and so many people who aren't even necessarily conservative are convinced that there's a cabal of fans of the playground, we shall say. Trademark Sidney Watson, running things in the halls of power, that there's a kind of worldwide conspiracy of people with those particular interests. And, there is some origin story for that. There are several things that are a big part of that perspective that I think a lot of people on the left, as with so many things, they don't know about it, even if you're into alternative media, because even the alternative media really does not get into things like where Kinsey got a lot of his research from, and John Money, the person who coined who basically minted the idea of gender being unrelated to sex, and he had a very dark history, and what a lot of the postmodernists were involved in, and that kind of thing. So I've wanted to cover so that people will know this is where a lot of this is coming from, and a lot of it is actually pretty dark. So
it's not to say that the modern conspiracy theories are true. It's just to say where the seeds were planted in people's brains.
Right.
Exactly.
This is where this came from. Like, I don't believe that, but at the same time, I think, as is so often the case, the people on the left don't even know what the conversation is about because they don't have that information. Like, right. You can't really talk about it if you don't know about it, or people who do believe that conspiracy are going to say, oh, you're just a shill. You never heard of John Money? You don't know what he did?
Right.
All right.
Right. So on Wednesday, we're going to split the stream. We're going to do the first half here on YouTube starting at 8 o'clock, and then we will switch over to Rumble halfway through. We're going to start making that a habit at least once a month, do some Rumble exclusive content to build our audience over there. We have 147 in the Rumble chat right now, so that's awesome. Thank you, guys. So on Wednesday, we will start here at 8 p.m., and then we will transition to Rumble about halfway through. We'll keep you guys abreast of how exactly to make that switch. It happened very, very smoothly last time. We did that with Pasta about a month ago. It went great, so we're looking forward to doing that again this Wednesday. And on Friday morning, I will have a guest host to be determined. Russell has a work commitment that he had long before we scheduled the Friday shows, so Russell will be without us on Friday morning, but I will get a guest host locked down for that, so that will be quite a lot of fun. And this concludes our Patreon and Substack scroll. There were some Substack paid subscribers that might not be on this list because some of those emails that they sent me an alert every time there's a paid subscriber. Some of those emails must have gotten archived. So I'm going to have to go and look in the new subscriber list and hit you guys up next time. So I apologize about that, but I promise I'll have everybody's name up in lights for the next show. Because we had a lot. I mean, you guys were great. We had a lot of new patrons and paid Substackers sign up this week, so that was awesome.
Yes, exactly. Not sure if you would call it a cabal, but definitely powerful people getting away with that. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And I will get into that in my shitpost.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I think Epstein's Island was safe and effective.
Yes.
Dan Richmond, Savage Joy, we're going to admit you in just a moment. Just a little heads up. You're on in about 30 seconds. Beautiful. All right. Dan Richmond, thanks for the $10. Trump world knows that they need a decent-sized field. If it were just Trump versus DeSantis, it's the close race. His cult is only 30% of the GOP. Vivek helps Trump. In the short term, I think that's absolutely right. Like I said, it's going to take a major event to knock Trump out and change the game. Right now, if Vivek is keeping Ron DeSantis' polls in the mid-teens, yeah, he's absolutely serving that purpose. Alrighty, folks. So we're about to introduce a very special guest. She is a friend of the show who was on our morning broadcast, not this past Friday, but the Friday before, to talk about her planned action in East Palestine, Ohio. This is part one of that planned action, made news. So this is a little bit of local TV news, talking about what these protests were about. So let's watch this first, and then we'll bring our guest in.
States of America, and we can be here for each other.
If you believe in human rights, you should not have to wait for something to happen to you before you actually care.
Joy Marie Mann was not expecting a huge turnout Friday night, but she's glad some close friends and fellow healthcare activists joined her from across the country for a short vigil.
When I heard that people were putting a rally on surrounding East Palestine, I had to be there.
18-year-old Zach Schimmel traveled with his mom from Chicago in solidarity with people in East Palestine and surrounding communities affected by the derailment.
What should happen when there's a disaster like that is the government should be there fighting for the people on the ground.
The activists here say this should not be political. They think politicians on both sides of the aisle have dropped the ball here. But they'll need to appeal to politicians if they want their demands heard.
One of them is to implement 1881A.
She's talking about Section 1881A of the Social Security Act. An obscure provision of Obamacare amended the act to provide government medical benefits to people exposed to environmental health hazards. On Wednesday, East Palestine resident Jess Connard pointed to the case of Libby, Montana, where people got free health care after they were exposed to asbestos.
What would be really nice that I would like to see is a plan put in place, a robust medical health screening plan for anybody that wants it, that feels like they've been exposed.
Earlier today, Marie Mann and other activists were in Darlington, Pennsylvania, bringing water and other supplies to people affected by that derailment in February. And again, tomorrow they'll be in Lisbon, Ohio for that Medicare for All rally. We're live in Shenley Park tonight. Mike Valenti, Pittsburgh's Action News 4.
All right, so that was part one of the action. There was part two of the action, and we decided we would, of course, have back on the show to discuss the action Savage Joy Marie Mann herself. Thanks so much for coming back. Good to talk to you again.
Thank you so much for asking me back, even before it happened. You guys had me on, and
we took a chance. I had a good feeling.
It's part of our satanic powers. We know these things are going to happen well ahead of time.
Coming over me.
Yeah, we knew it would do well.
We don't worry. We do the goat sacrifice, so you don't have to.
Oh, okay. I like goats though, baby goats that hop.
Well,
interesting.
You're going to have to get over that if you want to join.
Okay. I'll relent.
So, Joy, you had a two-part rally. You had the vigil on Friday, and then you had the rally on Saturday. I saw you post a little bit about it today. Here you guys are in the town square. holding up your signs. So you could take this in order. What was the Friday Vigil about? We got a taste of that on the news report, which, by the way, congratulations on making TV news. That's not easy to do. I know.
3 times.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's great. I've been involved with protests that have been big, some that have been not as big, but it is very, very hard, even when you have a big crowd, to get the TV cameras there. And so the fact that you guys did that, not once, twice, but 3 times, that's saying something in and of itself. So go ahead, take the floor, talk about Friday night, talk about Saturday, whatever you want, in whatever order.
So I've actually been in Pittsburgh here, staying with friends for 6 days because all of the buying items and organizing and everything, it's been a 3-month process, but now is like, so Friday initially, my comrade and I went to Sam's Club. We bought pallets of water, groceries, all kinds of items, brought them to Darlington, Pennsylvania, where it's only 7 miles from East Palestine. And they've also been very affected. However, they, not that people are talking about East Palestine, but they're never talked about because they're not even in Ohio. And, we wanted to do something for them as well. So we did a huge mutual aid drop. And as we pulled up, they were actually handing out the last 2 cases of water. So it was like, holy, it was like goosebumps, like, oh my God, like we are here with water just as they're running out. So that it was just amazing to meet some of the people I've interviewed and, really talk to people like organically. And I knew that yesterday was going to be incredible because of how Friday was. So then after that, we went back to the store, got like tons more pounds of water, groceries, clothes, toys, everything. And then we went to the vigil. And at the vigil, I didn't, I came up with it kind of last minute, like maybe a week prior or something. And excuse me, this has been side effects.
No, I was going to ask you about that, actually. Because I know you sent out a tweet about that you haven't been feeling good since you got back.
No, we're and it's not just me. It's a couple of my co-organizers. We've had cough, sore throat. My calves started tingling. I have been nauseous. It's bad. Excuse me.
Wow.
I've never had anything like this unless you get a cold, But we were supposedly out of the, the toxic.
Yeah, the black cloud range, right?
Right. But it's like, it's a good example to, show people that it's not like there's barriers, where it's not like, oh, well, that's not the same zip code, so this is just going to stop. But yeah, we did the vigil. I wasn't expecting a lot of people, because I didn't really promote it much. It was more, for us to get together, there were 6 of us organizers there, and myself from Harrisburg, and my co-host Andrew flew in from Boston. Zach flew in from Chicago. Lauren flew in from Missouri. So it was like everyone came in from like on their own dime, for just to join this. So I wanted to do something when they came in so we could also like reunite and do something special. So, we got this banner. I think I can curse on here, right? I did last time.
Indeed, yes.
So I had that banner made that says no fucks given. Right. And so we stood, in the park after we gave speeches and shared some stories about why we were there and why we wanted to educate people in Pittsburgh because it's so close. Yet people really don't talk about it. So we wanted to do something like that. And it was just so powerful holding that banner while having those lit candles right above it and just having so many people stop walking through the park and just sit down and listen to us, it was really, really powerful. Some people came over to talk to us afterwards, things like that. So it was like, you know, it was one of those examples that just shows like education, you know, can spark something, and it can, you know, like, wow, I didn't know that was still going on. So it was pretty beautiful. It was amazing.
Yeah, what was the response? I'm curious to your guys. Obviously, the major thrust of the rally was to demand that Section 1881A of the Social Security Act be invoked for the residents of the town and, you know, surrounding areas. For those who missed our last broadcast with you, 1881A was invoked to give the people of Libby, Montana, universal free health care for life. Basically a Medicare for all carve out under the ACA, because that town had been poisoned by a mine in the area. And so, you know, as has been made very known in the news, East Palestine is a pretty Republican area. I would imagine a lot of folks in the town may be skeptical of ideas like socialized medicine, although in my experience, a lot of MAGA people even can be very easily convinced that Medicare for all is the way to go. But what was the reaction of people when they heard that you guys were suggesting that basically they be given free health care for life, paid for out of the U.S. Treasury?
You know, it's, as someone who has, you know, canvassed for, you know, Bernie and stuff, and in like open primary states, and spoken with like every, you know, political, you know, party and ideology, it wasn't shocking to me that, honestly, I think people who have had that same experience would agree that a lot of times it's easier to talk to Republicans than to talk to shit libs.
Of course.
Because
we say that all the time.
They'll at least, like, I mean, yes, some people are jerks on both sides, but like Republicans are more likely to have discourse with you, where shit libs are more like triggered and like, you know, the gaslighting and things like that. So it actually wasn't hard to speak to these people at all. We had about 50 people show up yesterday. I only knew 20 who were coming. So, and every single speaker, I had 9 booked, but more and more people kept coming up and just wanting to take the megaphone. It was I just got goosebumps. It was so beautiful. And I mean, 1881A just kept coming up. Medicare for all kept coming up. It was so incredible. Yeah. I saw people there with pride flags. I saw, you know, they literally had a gay pride day last weekend. Like, people think that this is so like F everyone who's not Trump loving. I'm going to tell you something. This event was hours long. Not one person ever mentioned Trump. There were no shirts. There were no hats. There were no signs. I mean, like, that is just a way to basically imply that these people are not humane enough to deserve, you know, healthcare and clean air and clean water. I mean, you know, I was amazed that so many people actually knew what 1881A was. You know, I couldn't believe it. You know, even if they didn't know the, you know, correct, like where you get it and everything, they're like, oh yeah, Libby, Montana. Like, these are people who, like, when you're in that situation, what other choice do you have? You learn this shit. I mean, there are 2 choices. You either give up or you fight. That's your only 2 options. And every single person there, I don't want to get emotional, but they were so inspiring, and they were such fighters, and they are so strong and just such warriors. And a lot of them, you know, were there for their kids and their grandkids, and, you know, they know what they're in for.
Yeah. Yeah. No, just an amazing action. So that was Friday night was the vigil, and then Saturday was the gathering here that we talk about, where you had the daytime event. You want to talk about this?
Yeah, so we got a huge U-Haul of water and groceries and toys and all kinds of fun things, and we brought a bunch of tables and laid everything out, and people, people were showing up, and we were saying, if you've been affected that was an accident.
It's okay. It's because we're doing the Anthony Weiner, so it's because we mentioned Anthony Weiner.
That's totally why. Oh my God, that's why. It's your fault.
Yeah.
Have you been affected by the derailment? And yes, absolutely. Please take absolutely anything. These kids had like no toys when they were forced out of their home. They're living in hotels. They have nothing. And we got to give them stuffed animals and book bags and clothing. Two little ones I want to give a shout out to because their moms are probably watching. They could not wait to put on their new clothes. They literally put them on like ASAP because mom was a Spider-Man shirt, and we tried to get things that we knew would make them happy because this is, God, do they need this? And then also, we got things for the parents and stuff like that. So that's kind of how it started. We were just kind of handing out mutual aid. And then we started with the speakers and listening to their stories. And even though I'd interviewed many of them, I still learned so much. Yesterday, it was kind of an ununiform as to other events I've done. I usually have like, you can speak 5 to 7 minutes, like that thing. And I was just like, no sound system, no stage, no structure. I just want, these people never get to speak their minds. They never get to share their story. This is their rally. They could say whatever they want and take as long as they want. Because I think a lot of people, and I'm learning that now, even more than I thought, are making this way more about themselves than the fact that, it's about these people. This was nobody's rally except theirs. They are the ones who helped me organize it. They're the ones who connected me. They're the ones who called the 3 newspapers who covered it. Like, they are the most talented, kind, amazing activists I've ever worked with. And none of them have done it six months prior. None of them did it until now. And they act like they've been doing this for years. It's incredible. So I think just being around, quite honestly, I have not felt that absolute solidarity, not the Twitter hashtag solidarity, like actual solidarity.
Oh, yeah.
In so many years. Like, I'm talking 2016 years. It was so powerful. Like, people you don't even know just coming up, hugs, kisses, like, thank you. Just sharing so much love with each other. And, even people who ended up being in the same town who hadn't even talked before were like, this is my first rally. I didn't know what it would be like. This is my first East Palestine event, but I see other people here. So now I'm more comfortable. This one girl said her dad came up to speak. He wasn't scheduled. He just came up. And she said he's never spoken publicly, ever. I'm shocked he got up there. But it's something about that, that setting that's so organic. And, if you're in that moment and you're like, you know what? I have the megaphone. I have the ears. I have the cameras. Let's go. And that's so powerful.
Yeah, no, I mean, it seems like it was an amazing event. Just that kind of community building, especially when it gets the eye of the local media, that can really be a very powerful thing in terms of political education, movement building, and obviously, most importantly, in this case, getting justice for the people of this town. And so, speaking of the people in this town, I will go out of order here and take a super chat from our friend Colin, whose question, and this will be our last question for you, Joy, and then we'll let you go. What are the next steps for the residents post-rally?
Well, so I don't know if I may not be supposed, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'm going to say it because I'm not 100% sure. But the Unity Council of East Palestine, whom many of the speakers were, and they endorsed the movement and have asked me to continue organize with them. They are going to DC in a few days for several days. They're going to be meeting with a congressperson and meeting with, people to try and push 1881A. They have had a few senators that have signed on, per se. So they're going to do that. They're also going to be doing other things in DC. So that's coming up in a few days. It's going to be the 6-month anniversary of all of this. So they wanted to do something big. So that's what they're doing next. But and you can listen to the speeches. I think it was very apparent that regardless of if you're into electoral politics or you're registered this way or that way, I think it was a genuine theme that all of us were like, this is in the streets now. This is not, the ballot box, these people are being left to die, and there are people already elected. They don't care. It's not going to change. You think, if we elect this person, that person, it's never gotten us anywhere. The real change is going to happen in the streets, joining together, doing mutual aid, doing, rallies, listening to each other, share their stories. That's what's going to change. And they know this. And I think that's been a really, really hard lesson for them to learn.
Indeed. Well, yeah, keep me up to date on all that, because one of the things Russell and I have talked about when it comes to issues like this, we wish we had covered this more. I mean, we cover it more than most people in our space, but not enough, honestly. But one of the things Russell always says is one of the reasons it's hard to cover this is because it's hard to find information. We don't have the resources to go and break news. It's hard to find breaking news on this. So when they meet with the federal politicians, if there's anything you want to send our way, please do, because we'd like to stay on it.
Absolutely. And honestly, a lot of the things I receive to be able to cover it is from them.
Right.
It's things they send me. Because, it's not a sexy topic. These are a bunch of poor folk who are suffering.
Right. Yeah, of course.
That's not, attractive. But, I did give all of them my word yesterday that I will be back. I don't know if I'll have the means to bring mutual aid on that level again, but I am going back. My life is forever changed. I will absolutely continue working with them. And I'll be going back, even if it's just to spend time with them. And, just being around them was inspiring. So anything I can do to help, I want to continue to be there for them, because this was, as much as yesterday really was one of the best days of my life. It really was.
You tweeted that out.
It's just it's so powerful. And I don't believe in return, visits to paradise. I don't expect it like that. But I do know for a fact, being an activist and an organizer for years, I know that one weekend is not going to cure all. It's not. We all know that. But I think a lot of organizers choose to do one event and then move on. Right. But I think, the aid we brought them may last a couple weeks, but then what? And right. I'm never going to stop talking about it. I'm just not.
All right. Well, God bless you, Joy. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being there this weekend. And yeah, thanks so much for giving us the update, and we will be in touch with you moving forward. Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you, Joy.
So much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Absolutely. Have a great night.
Watch them goats.
Thanks again. Savage Joy, everybody. Great work. What an emotionally, charged topic that is. I mean, just hearing those stories is tough. It's tough to go right from there into making fun of Kyle.
You, Kyle.
I bet we can do it.
So,
though.
No, we have one more. That we have
I
to
bet,
do in
I
between.
bet
We have a warm
I bet
up.
we can
do
make
have a
it
warm
work.
up. We have
a warm up act.
We have a warm up. We have a transition because we have one more headline.
Yeah,
that
look,
we have to get
I mean,
to.
I didn't, because we don't want the show to go 4 hours. But yeah, I mean, we could definitely, that would be a really interesting roundtable show to do. Because, we all hate the corporate media and all of that. But part of the reason they don't cover poverty, I'm not saying they would anyway, but it's bad for ratings. It really, like, people don't like to watch stuff about poverty and real shit. They don't. Not unless you're framing it as a culture war issue. Why are these people living in tents in downtown Los Angeles? That gets views. What? Right. Portland is a nightmare. This is what libs do to cities, right? That'll get views. But if you're just, these people are poor living in dilapidated conditions, people don't like to watch it. It's really bad ratings. And one of the things you find when you get into the alternative media space is the incentives are the same. It's really not any different. You would hope it would be. I guess the difference is you have a core of people who do want to hear about that stuff. But in terms of broadly speaking, I mean, come on, man. You can go right now to our channel, look at the history of our videos. Like, the stuff that's really meat and potatoes, that never does as well as what we're about to do. And that's just reality. It just is.
Of course. But look, that's part of the game. You just have to work that in, right?
Well, that's why we did this.
That's why we did this tonight. Right. Exactly. So we do have a little warm up before we get into the Kyle and the Vanguard stuff. We'll take a super chat first here. Cool Blue, thanks for the $9.99. Republicans have routinely had all states voting in primaries since 1980. All the R's general election nominees since 2012. Romney won South Carolina. That's right. Gingrich won South Carolina in 2012. For the first two scheduled states, most won New Hampshire, not so much Iowa. That's correct. What I tell you, I told you guys, Cool Blue last time. I told you, Cool Blue is really up on this electoral history. Maybe you should.
We're bringing you on with the whiteboard.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be our Steve Kornacki. Thank you very much.
A lot cooler.
All right, folks. So this will be a nice transition from a somber but very important story like that last one we just did into our next one. Has anybody ever heard of this guy, Paul Massaro? Paul Massaro is an advisor to the Helsinki Commission. And he was one of the speakers at the Captive Nations Summit, which was held at the Victims of Communism Museum in Washington, D.C., over the weekend. I did not know there was a Victims of Communism Museum in Washington, D.C.
Is there really?
Tell you, I bet they charge too much for parking. I can tell you that. I guarantee you that. They do not validate over at the Victims of Communism Museum. And people are happy to pay. They're happy to pay for parking.
Yeah, they want to give you a taste of capitalism at work.
Freedom, and market choices.
Freedom to pay for parking.
Freedom to pay $18 to park at the Victims of Communism Museum. It would just be great if everything in that museum was an absolute rip-off.
At the Communism Museum, the line is around the block.
At the Communism Museum, it's around the block, right? No, Victims of Communism Museum, the gift shop employees, they make $3 an hour. They got 14-year-olds working there, right? And the T-shirts, $85. Right, but you have choice.
You have choice of souvenirs. At the Communist Museum, you can get a hammer, you can get a sickle. That's it.
Exactly, that's it. At the Victims of Communism Museum, the people who choose to work there for $3 an hour are grateful for the opportunity. Because if they're willing to work for $3 an hour, and that's what the Victims of Communism Museum wants to pay them, why should the government step in and force them to pay them more? Why?
Well,
That's
also,
right.
I mean, the person who runs the place started out validating the parking.
Right,
exactly. You work your way up. That guy makes $9 an hour.
Exactly.
Okay, triple.
Yeah, see, Tusker's got it right. Your tax dollars at work at the Victims of Communism Memorial. All right. So
I was just gonna say that's not funded by like a Republican think tank. Like, is that a part of the Smithsonian? What the hell is that?
who the hell knows? But it was Tusker who sent us this story in the first place. So thank you, Tusker. She tweeted it at me, and I'm assuming, Russell, she texted it to you because you sent me this video. Listen to this fucking maniac who's very upset that there are certain people here at home concern trolling about nuclear war. So let's hear this guy.
Biggest thing is fear. I think we're fearful. It's very funny to me because you meet Ukrainians. Not a single Ukrainian's fearful. You talk to Ukrainians, like, what if the Russians use nuclear weapons? They're like, we'll keep fighting and we'll win. You know, it's only the, you know, the Westerners that are, oh my God, I'm
First of all, you're telling me the Ukrainian people are not fearful of a nuclear bomb going off? Who?
Nah,
is that a statement you can just make on all of their behalf?
They eat uranium for breakfast.
Right? Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? What kind of a statement is that? And that's not even nearly the most insane thing he said.
Nuclear weapons. They're like, we'll keep fighting and we'll win. You know, it's only.
No, you're not going to keep fighting if a nuclear bomb goes off in the country. No, you will not keep fighting. Do you know what nuclear weapons are?
Those people eat uranium and shit and hydrogen weapons.
That's why we dropped the bombs on Japan, because we knew that by doing that, we would end it, right? I'm not saying it was the right thing to do. I obviously think it was a horrific thing to do. But that was the whole rationale, is that once that happens, they can no longer keep fighting. So what the fuck are you talking about? They're not afraid. They'll keep fighting. What's this fucking Harry Sisson got in a time machine? This guy's a maniac. He has the same mannerisms as Harry Sisson.
Harry Sisson has a bright future in Washington.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, the Westerners that are.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go.
The Westerners that are, oh my God, I'm over here in California, and what if the Russians use nuclear weapons? Like, it's this almost pathetic. Like, well, we want to help the Ukrainians, but not if it costs us even a modicum of comfort. You know, so
a modicum of comfort. A modicum of comfort. I got these people saying, I don't know, what if they drop a nuclear bomb on San Francisco? You fucking pussies. Well, you want to help the Ukrainians, but not if it costs you a modicum of comfort.
Have you ever seen Mad Max? That's a pretty cool car. Yeah, right, that is a pretty cool car. Would you really not want to drive around in a radiated landscape in a souped up muscle car with a sawed off shotgun? Come on, people. That's worst case scenario.
Yeah. Who's the guy sitting next to him, by the way? Is this the president of the Victims of Communism Museum and Memorial? Because he's like, Jesus, send me back to the gulag before I have to hear any more of this guy.
Russian dissolution is bad for you, and Russian dissolution means a bunch of ethnic warring states, and it's going to be, very bad for the West, and you're better off with having your boy Putin in office who can, control the region for you or whatever.
Yeah, I have a question. Was this guy in the White House before the cocaine showed up? I'm starting to think maybe it was this guy's. Did they know where? Check his travel records. Was he in the White House the week before that cocaine surfaced?
It would not surprise me at all if new pictures surfaced on that laptop of him and Hunter double teaming a porn star. Like snorting rails off her back.
What a fucking piece of work this guy is.
We're not sure if we want to win yet, because if we wanted to win, the Ukrainians would win tomorrow. I think we should be very realistic about the extent to which we have been co-opted. That major elements of our society has been co-opted, and that this is still ongoing. These guys are so deep in our system. They have access to the best lawyers that the West has to provide. I mean, they've got all of New York City and London working for them. We're over a year and a half since the full-scale invasion.
I think this guy died.
So we have to get this corruption out of our society. We do have to realize we're the good guys. And if we'd given them the weapons beforehand, they would have just taken it all back.
The guy just nods off.
That's a guy I've got a lot less road ahead of me than I have behind, and I've made terrible choices.
Exactly.
What choices did I make that put me in a chair next to this fucking maniac?
What a lunatic. What a fucking maniac.
We can't give any lethal weapons at all. We'll give them blankets. We can't give them air defense. That'll somehow escalate things. We were ready to lose in Ukraine.
This guy works for the government? This guy gets paid by the government? This guy's a respected DC insider? This is what I mean, folks. You know, when you don't have a president calling the shots, when the president can't make it through a 4-minute meeting with the Israeli president without reading his note cards and slurring his words, these are the kinds of people who end up in places of power, right? Who end up having influence, right? These guys. Who the hell ever heard of this guy? I didn't even know who the fuck this guy was until I saw this video. I did a little research on him.
I mean, come on, man. Washington's always been full of fucking people with this kind of shitty and grin who'll say whatever they're supposed to say to keep their job.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. For Zelensky, you have to leave. I mean, we went in and we tried to get the Ukrainians to give up the ghost, to give up Ukraine. That was our strategy. Half measures. I was really excited the first few weeks, and we sort of froze the reserves, and we were all talking about Putin's war chest. And it's like, well, what if your war chest is frozen? Which was pretty cool. And thank God for the Ukrainians, because for the first time in my life, I actually saw the West be like, oh my God, we do believe in this. We're still a little bit lost on, do we want to win?
What do you mean? For the first time?
Oh, yeah, no, the West never bombs countries. Like, the West never gets behind war.
The West never tries to impose its way of life on the rest of the world through force.
No. They never. They're so hesitant to get involved in armed conflict, particularly indirectly. They really like that. It's not as much blowback at home that way. You want to fuck it. You want to do a genocide in Yemen? All right, as long as we don't have boots on the ground. Here you go. How much do you need?
I mean, look, even that, I mean, yes, what he's saying is just wrong, obviously, but even that is indicative of a certain Western chauvinism. And yes, as we said in our last show, a certain racism, right? He's like, this is the first time where the West really believed in this. What he's really meaning is this is the first time where he felt the West, or us, the U.S. in this context, what he's really obviously talking about. It's the first time in his lifetime where he felt like we could actually get the American people invested in this cause, because this is war in Europe, not war in the Middle East or war in Africa. This is war in Europe. That's what they were saying at the beginning of this war, right? There was an op-ed in a newspaper. Now, this is happening to people who look like us. Literally, that's exactly the phrase that they used. So this is a version of that. All right, we'll let this guy finish.
In Ukraine? I mean, is that the goal? I mean, I think it should be the goal. And victory in Ukraine is victory against China, right? I mean, it deters China, it deters all totalitarians. Fear of what comes after Ukrainian victory. And that's what we're scared of.
Very well said. Everyone, please
join me. Said. Yeah, great
I'm so wasted.
Very well said. Thank you very much. Wow.
Yeah, that guy is a fucking psycho. But
what a bit that guy was.
But Washington is full of guys like this. And if you're somebody in power who needs somebody who's just completely amoral to just put on symposiums, that's your guy. Guys like that always have a job out there. Those guys will never go hungry in Washington.
Nope. That is true. Indeed. All right, folks, we're going to get to our marquee segment of the evening in just a moment. We are going to read some super chats here. Mitchell Sparks, thank you for the $2. We appreciate that. That is very kind of you, my friend. Tusker says, comrade, boy genius. Yeah, indeed. Boy genius. Absolutely. Dwayne Vogel says he'll check them out. See, boy genius going to get some downloads. Get that little dude dissidence bump in there for our comrade, boy genius. E. Hef, thank you for the $4.99. First time listening. What is your stance on trans kids and puberty blockers for minors?
Keaton was having a nice day.
Yeah, I was going to say, bad timing for that, my friend. It's no fault of your own, but we do have to do this other segment. Why don't we shelve that until the end? I'll make a point to bring it back, unless you can do this in 90 seconds.
In 90 seconds, I am very strongly against it, as is Europe. And every country in Europe that has done a meta-analysis of the data has come to the conclusion that any study supporting this has very weak evidence. It is not worth the risk. So one by one, they have been banning it in our freak show of a for-profit healthcare system. Strangely, they don't want to do a meta-analysis, and they want to keep pushing forward with an affirmation-only model. 90 seconds or less.
That was way less. I want to put that, and I want to make you watch that, until you memorize it, so you have that for every time.
So I have it ready every time.
Yeah, but actually, we did do a segment on that on our Patreon-only stream this past week. But thank you, EHEF, for tuning in. Thank you for your first time. I hope it's not your last time. Cool
We're actually, by the way, we're in the process of getting, I don't know if you know who she is, Lisa Sellen Davis, who was one of the best writers in this area. She has a Substack. She wrote the book Tomboy. We're trying to get her and a psychologist who's also a producer on the detransition movie No Way Back that got canceled from screening at AMC. Now it's streaming. I'm not exactly sure where, but we've been going back and forth. We'll probably have them on together in mid-August.
Mid-August.
Yep.
Indeed. All righty. Cool Blue, thanks for the $4.99. Barack Obama will not listen to Love Me, I'm a Liberal or War or any other anti-establishment, anti-war music. That is very true. Indeed. Folks, we're at 11,092 subscribers. Can we get to 11,100 before the end of the show? Is that too much to ask? 948 of you in the chat right now. Thanks for being here. Please hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Pardon me. If you are so inclined. All right, folks, let's get to the action here, shall we? So it is July 23rd. This is around the weekend where they celebrate Christmas in July, is it not? Right? Do they have a Christmas in July thing going where some people, do Christmas in July? It's not as popular as you would think it would be in a capitalist nation like ours. I mean, the opportunity to add a second Christmas, how could you not pounce on that?
You know what I don't understand? Year-round Christmas stores. There's one in Little Italy.
There is one in Little Italy.
I couldn't believe it fucking survived COVID. Of all the things that proved to be indestructible and bulletproof, this fucking Christmas store.
Well,
like, why? Why do you want to go to a Christmas store when it's not Christmas? I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have my theories about that, but it would only be speculation. Speculation. That is an anti-Italian discrimination. You know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. But could be. All I'm saying. Anyway, this is Christmas in July because when I saw that Kyle Kulinski invited the Vanguard guys onto his show to talk about Marianne Williamson and Cornel West and the 2024 election, I thought, wow, what a gift from the heavens. So here we go. We're going to play. There's quite a bit of video to play here. We're not going to play the whole thing. The whole thing was 20 minutes. We're going to play like the first 6 minutes or so. We will be stopping at various points. So let's have at it.
Mentioned something, earlier you mentioned something, Gavin, that I thought was really interesting. You were talking about definitely voting for Marianne.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right here. Take our first pause. I have never seen a political organization take power that uses a sort of pastel teal as its theme color, right? This just exudes weakness. It really does. I'm saying, and this is you may think that that's a trivial comment. Vosh has like the pinkish purple light behind him and stuff like that. Yeah. There's this. What is with this pastel sort of scheme that these guys use? Do you think that reads power? Do you think it reads that you stand for something? There's something so incredibly benign about it. Am I reading too much into it, or am I wrong? Am I wrong? Can anybody name me a political organization that used pastel colors as its theme colors that has actually done anything in the world?
I mean, to be fair, nostalgia is powerful, and Kyle seems to be broadcasting from a green screened backdrop of the Brady Bunch house. So he's got that going for him. People have warm feelings about the Brady Bunch.
Exactly. Seafoam. Exactly.
I don't know what they're going for. You don't really want to soothe people, right? I think it's meant to be soothing.
No, right.
Soothing. You know, you want people riled up.
Right. Yeah. It's the MAGA, red, communism, red, right? Yeah. Big colors. Even the Democrats, deep blue, not a pastel light blue.
I mean, the Spanish Civil War, wasn't that the revolutionaries? Didn't they go with pastels?
Lavender and teal.
I'm trying
uniforms.
to.
You ever see an army in lavender and teal uniforms? No.
I mean, look at Picasso's Guernica. actually. I think they're all in pastels fighting there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think you got that wrong. You got to look at your arcades.
All right, here we go.
In the Democratic primary, which obviously I fully agree.
I'll start it over.
Earlier, you mentioned something, Gavin, that I thought was really interesting. You were talking about definitely voting for Marianne in the Democratic primary, which obviously I fully agree with. And then you were saying in the general, definitely voting for Cornel West. So the point that I've made on my show, and kind of the point that I've made over the years, even in 2016 and even in 2020, even though some people interpret what I've said differently, my point has always been, if you live in a safe state, I think you should vote for, the
if your vote is going to have absolutely no consequence.
Right.
If your vote is completely meaningless and gestural to the point that you might as well not even walk down to the polling station except to just feel good about yourself and pat yourself on the back for your empty gesture, then I am all for it. But if your vote is actually going to threaten to actually affect this horrific trap that we're in between the mob boss that wants to break your legs and the mob boss that wants to knock your teeth out, if you actually want to do something about that, you're out of line, my friend.
Right. You have to think about it. Think about it. Hear him out.
I think you should vote for, the Green Party candidate or whichever candidate 100% aligns more with your values. But I actually think it's a much more difficult moral conundrum in a swing state. I actually don't think it's a very easy question. Like, I'm definitely going to vote for Cornel West because at the end of the day, look, it's just the ironclad reality that if we don't get rid of first past the post voting, and if we don't implement ranked choice voting, all the third party talk, whether it's a libertarian, green, an independent, or anybody, it all comes to it's literally for nothing. It's all just like a fake virtue signal show.
No. As Russell just explained, what you're describing now is the fake virtue signal show. Voting for a green in a safe state is more of a virtue signal show. Obviously, if you want to get them the 5% threshold, there's some efficacy in it, but he doesn't want you doing it in any place where it is a threat to the Democratic Party. In other words, a virtue signal show, right? You're there to show that you disagree with the Democratic platform, but you don't want to hurt them. You don't want to cost them. And it's a virtue signal show unless we implement ranked choice voting. I'm going to explain why he's wrong about that in just a second.
And I actually think that sort of delegitimizes the idea of a third party and a candidate who's not a Democrat or Republican a lot more, that we all buy into this charade that there might be something serious going on here. Now, this, by the way, is coming from somebody. I voted for Jill Stein.
Oh, beautiful.
As an empty gesture in New York.
As an empty gesture in New York. He's saying now, because he's going to probably be voting in Virginia in 2024, and that is somewhat of a swing state, he is going to vote for Joe Biden. Don't worry, we're going to get back to the Kyle and Vanguard video in just a moment. But I just want to demonstrate something, because he says here that you can't really get behind third-party voting as long as we have a first-past-the-post system and we do not have ranked choice voting. Well, I want you to think about the logic of that, okay? Why would the Democrats or the Republicans give you ranked choice voting if all ranked choice voting would enable and empower people to vote for third parties? We have this problem, right? We have a two-party system. Every state, every county, every district, wherever, is controlled by one of these two major parties. Why would they simply pass ranked choice voting if they thought that by doing so, they would empower and invite people to vote third party? Answer, they would not. That's why very few places have ranked choice voting.
Where's the upside for them?
Right. What's the upside for them? What might actually get you ranked choice voting is if you start voting for third parties now, because then ranked choice voting enables the two major parties to pick up some of those third party votes on the second and third round. I'm going to get a little Katie Porter on you guys now, so bear with me. I have a little bit of a whiteboard presentation, okay? This is the Keaton Weiss whiteboard presentation, okay? Let's say we have an election and the final vote is this. Republicans 48%, Democrats 46%, the Greens have 5%, and the Libertarians have 1%, right? We're trying to get Cornel up around 5 this time. Let's say this is the final count. Republicans, Democrats, Greens, Libertarians. If there's no ranked choice voting, election's over, Republicans win. Because you don't need to cross 50%. It's whoever has the plurality of votes on the first round, because there's only one round. Under ranked choice voting, we would go numerous rounds until one party crosses that 50% majority threshold. And the way we determine who crosses that 50% majority threshold is you eliminate the losing party, the party that's in last place, and you take the second choice of those voters and we put them up to number one, right? So let's just say we have this here. Republicans 48, Democrats 46, Greens 5, Libertarians 1. Now, we'll say, to be very simplistic, I understand this is not the way it happens. Let's just say, for argument's sake, do the Libertarians get, every vote that would be Libertarian goes to the Republican, and every vote that is Green, the second choice, would go to the Democrat, right? We'll assume that all the Libertarian first round votes are Republican on the second round, all the Green votes are Democrat on the second round. I understand that's not exactly how it works, but just for simplicity's sake. So the way this would work is Libertarians...
What about racist Libertarians who like Biden's mass incarceration policy?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So maybe I'm not accounting for that. But under that, you have Libertarians at 1, so they would get knocked out. They would go to 0, and let's give their point to the Republicans. Republicans are now up 49-46, but no one is at 50 points yet. So you have to go a second round, at which point the Greens go to 0, Democrats get those 5 points, and now, boom, Democrats win, 51-49. So under that situation, where it's Republicans 48, Democrats 46, Greens 5, Libertarians 1, right? You would have a situation where if you did not have ranked choice voting, the election would be over, Republicans would win, Democrats would have a hissy fit that the Greens stole their votes, and the Republicans would take power. If you had ranked choice voting in that situation, the Democrats would win because the Democrats would be the beneficiaries of those second round Green Party votes. So what you do by voting third party is you incentivize the two major parties to pass ranked choice voting because now they need access to those second round votes if no party crosses 50%. Under Kyle's method, nothing happens. Kyle just virtue signals, how do you like that he wants ranked choice voting, but he doesn't actually put in place any system that would give you ranked choice voting because what you're saying is we can't vote third party until the two parties break their monopoly or duopoly by choice and just grant us ranked choice voting. That's what you call a virtue signal.
Well argued, my friend.
So, yeah, so it's just completely backwards. It's completely backwards. If anything, ranked choice voting can be ushered in by third-party movements because that gives the two major parties an incentive to pass it, right?
Right. Yeah, in the end, they're only going to do it if it benefits them. There's really no upside to allowing it now. It's all the best case scenario. It just embarrasses them by demonstrating how much underlying support there really is for third party. Worst case scenario, if everyone feels like they're not going to throw it to the party that they hate, they can start losing.
Right.
Like, it's totally possible. I could totally see if you took away the spoiler consideration, I could totally see voters, even shit libs who just don't think that's going to happen, being like, I'm going to vote Green, and then being horrified that the Greens actually won. Like, that would only work once, but hey, man, it could happen.
Could happen. Anyway, let's go back to Kyle now explaining the case for why you should vote for Joe Biden in a swing state. So this is the part that got a lot of eyeballs on it. And so we will take this little by little.
So when it comes to Biden, I got to be honest with you guys. I expected Dickie McGee's act from him. I expected literally nothing because we're talking about
Hasn't anyone talked to him about this catchphrase?
I guess
not. Does he have no one in his life who cares enough about him to tell him to stop doing this to his hair and stop saying Dickie McGee's acts? Nobody loves him enough to tell him this?
Dickie McGee's acts. I was expecting Dickie McGee's acts from Joe Biden. Let's see what he got.
Who voted for the Iraq War. We're talking about a guy who voted for the crime bill and wrote part of the crime bill. We're talking about a guy who supported NAFTA and the Patriot Act. And like his record as a senator is a deeply, deeply conservative Democrat and a corrupt Democrat. So I expected nothing at all. But then when he got into office, like, I was genuinely pleasantly surprised to see he did some student loan debt reduction. He did.
No, he didn't. He did not do student loan debt reduction.
He did enforcement of the laws on the books that had been ignored, which is exactly what he's doing now, and calling it loan forgiveness.
Right. The loan forgiveness that he took was struck down by the Supreme Court, which I strongly, strongly suspect was by design, because he ignored a memo telling him to invoke the Higher Education Act of 1965 and use that as the basis for his for his student debt action. He took, what was it, 16 months, 14 months? I forget the exact time, from April to July, whatever that is. 16 months, 14 months, whatever the math is, to decide to actually cancel student debt. But he used the wrong justification, and that just got struck down. And now he's going to say...
Why would you? Why would you? They already
Exactly.
knew that the Supreme Court had been very skeptical of their economic relief policies with COVID as a justification. They didn't even uphold eviction moratorium as justified in a fucking pandemic. They're going to think that student loan forgiveness is predicated on a pandemic. That's going to pass muster at a court that struck down an eviction moratorium. They knew. They did not want this to pass. They get too much money from loan servicers, from credit card companies, and from banks to actually do student loan forgiveness.
Of course. And that student loan forgiveness, the actual student loan forgiveness, was just struck down, and we're not getting a new student loan forgiveness executive action until after the next election, because he says it's going to take longer to do it under the Higher Education Act than to do it under the HEROES Act. This last thing that he just passed, we did a whole segment on it. First of all, you need a master's degree to figure out how the fucking thing works. That's number one. Number two, not only is it means tested, it's age tested, because it only kicks in after 20 to 25 years of payments that are income based payments. So what that means is, if you can't pay back your balance after 25 years based on an income-based repayment plan, what it means is they're going to soak poor people for 25 years and then forgive the debt past that point. Because if you're paying on an income basis and that degree you got was worth anything, you shouldn't need the student debt relief at the end, because you should be able to pay it back in 25 years. But you can't, because they rake you over the coals in this country. So that's the version of relief that he has passed. It affects very, very few people as compared to the actual student debt package. And the actual student debt package was a failure by design. So no, he gets 0 points for canceling student debt. 0 for 1. Anything to add before we go on?
Yeah, it's not even something he passed. This is just that the system is so broken that a lot of student loan debt should have been forgiven under the law.
People
and
were overcharged.
Yeah, people. He's been moving people through the system who should have had their loans forgiven already for public service, and they just didn't do it. He's just been fixing bureaucratic snafus. There's another case of it.
Right. All right, here we go.
$1,400 stimulus checks. He said it was going to be $2,000. That was a lie, but we got $1,400, which was half decent.
Trump wanted to give more, right? Trump wanted to give higher checks during the lame duck session. He didn't. So again, this is all under the premise. He's making the argument here that not only did Joe Biden
go through, she held it up.
Right. He's making the argument that not only has Joe Biden exceeded expectations, but as we will get to in a few moments, that he is the lesser evil to Donald Trump. Okay, well, Trump wanted to give more than the $2,000. Biden nickel and dimed you for $1,400. So that's 0 for 2.
In the Inflation Reduction Act, they overruled the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court said the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, is not allowed to do environmental protection. And so Biden and the Democrats slipped it into the IRA that we're redefining carbon emissions as a pollutant. So now the EPA can regulate it again, basically saving the entire fight against climate change by that one simple procedural trick, which was super based, one of the most base things I've ever seen any Democrat in the modern era do.
Super based, saving the entire fight against climate change with that one act. Not only did this guy sign the Willow Project, which is the biggest drilling permit in the history of federal lands, but one thing that he doesn't get enough shit for from a climate change standpoint is the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline, which was the biggest carbon bomb in human history. No single act.
The Russians did it.
No single act in the history of the world, no man-made act, has released more carbon into the atmosphere than blowing up that pipeline, which Joe Biden is on record saying will be destroyed if Russia invades Ukraine. Gave a little smirk when they asked, how can that happen? right? Now, trust me, we have a way of doing it. Then they said Russia did it. Then we said we don't know who did it. Then they said the Ukrainians did it, but the Ukrainians didn't tell their government that they were doing it, and we didn't know they did it. Then we have information that the U.S. learned that the Ukrainians were going to do it. We did it. He did it. Okay? He did it. So between the Willow Project and that, you're talking about a disastrous environmental record. But he doesn't mention any of that. He mentioned some bureaucratic step that they took that apparently has solved the climate change problem, right? Basically, what did he say?
Yeah.
He's basically saved the fight
saved
against climate change. He's basically saved it, right?
We're redefining carbon emissions as a pollutant, so now the EPA can regulate it again, basically saving the entire fight against climate change by that one simple procedural trick, which was super base, one of the most base things I've ever seen any Democrat in the modern era do.
That's the best.
He raised the minimum wage for federal employees and federal contractors through executive order, which is about 400,000 workers to $15 an hour. I definitely didn't expect him to do that. I didn't expect him to do project.
Raise the minimum wage for government workers. Okay.
Labor agreements, which 200,000 union workers get higher wages as a result of that. I didn't expect him to onshore 200,000 jobs.
Not only did he break a railroad strike, but we'll see what happens with this UPS strike because he's under a lot of pressure to intervene on management's behalf over that. We'll see what happens. That's still 8 days away, 9 days away, but we will see. We will see what happens with that.
Order your microwave popcorn now.
Exactly. I just bought my kid the official Buzz Lightyear. He's been wanting it forever.
Right.
It's got the
gay one or the straight one.
No, there's not been a gay Buzz Lightyear. There was a brief scene with a lesbian woman in the Lightyear movie where she pecked somebody on the cheek. No, Buzz Lightyear is alpha, and he got the karate chop.
I mean, that's
he
what
talks.
he says. That's what he
He's
says.
got the helmet.
He's closeted.
Yeah, exactly.
Clearly.
He was all decked out, and my kid wanted him for the longest time, and so I finally got it for him. I'm glad I got it in before the UPS strike. But we'll see what happens with this UPS strike. We'll see if Biden intervenes to crush another one. We will see.
And we'll see what Kyle has to say about it.
Yeah, we'll see what Kyle has to say about it.
When Trump had offshored hundreds of thousands of jobs. I didn't expect him to do even the mild gun reform that he did, where we have some funding for red flag laws and we got rid of the boyfriend loophole. So if you have a domestic abuser boyfriend.
The boyfriend loophole, that's the name of Crystal's memoir coming out in about 25 years. The boyfriend loophole. Glad you got that plug in there. Good business. Good for the family business. Go ahead. No, I was going to say those things where he's talking about the increased wages for union members, $15 minimum wage for federal workers, and things like that. This is all part of the Democrat grift, is to orient themselves slightly to the left of Republicans on certain issues, precisely so that people can come on the air and make these kinds of arguments for them every 4 years when it comes time to vote for them. Right? So it's not that they are to the right of Republicans on everything. They orient themselves ever so slightly to their left on a small handful of issues so that the sheepdogs can go to work convincing progressives and lefties that they're better off voting Democrat.
Hey, look, I know we were a little rough on you, but, you better pay because you know what the other guy's going to do to you, right?
Right, exactly. That's part of the grift. That's part of the shakedown, right? Is giving you that little tiny bit extra, right? On a handful of issues.
And this is probably going to come up a lot in this segment. I don't know why, at this point, why do channels like this exist? Who's that for? Who is Kyle for? And we will see. I don't think there are enough shit libs for all these newly minted shit libs to go around. I think they are turning their back on the base audience that they had and the audience that they're going for. They have CNN, they have MSNBC, man. And if they really want to go in this direction, they have the Young Turks, right? Why are they going to watch Kyle?
Well, not anymore. Maybe he sees an opportunity to.
Maybe he's trying to get some Young Turks.
Exactly.
Trans the children fanatics. Maybe that's the niche they're going for. I'll be interested to see how this plays out because watching this whole segment, I mean, he sounded like any commentator on corporate media. So why are you going to watch somebody on a bad set with dumb takes give you the same takes you could get on a better produced show on your TV. Like, why? I don't know who the audience is for this. I don't get it.
Yeah, well, we'll keep going.
That you can legally take their guns now if they're a threat. I didn't expect, Ketanji Brown Jackson, I think, is a great Supreme Court justice. She was put on the court.
Okay, well, a justice retired, and he was going to appoint a liberal to the court. Sure, I mean, Jackson's fine. She's good. What? That's something that any other Democrat wouldn't have also done?
Right.
Like, how does that not exceed expectations is what I would ask. Like,
right.
He's talking about how he exceeded my expectation. Right. He appointed a liberal to the court, which any Democrat would do.
Right.
Right.
We have the NLRB is genuinely pro-labor. We wouldn't have seen this increase in Amazon unionization and Starbucks unionization if it wasn't for that. He pulled out of Afghanistan, which I thought was super based, and then he actually told the media to suck his nuts as he did it when they were like flipping out over it. And he took a hit in the polls as a result of it because they hit him so fucking hard on that.
He took a hit in the polls because he fucking stumbled out of Afghanistan like a fucking drunk at 4 a.m.
Right, exactly. You had Afghanis dangling off the side of the airplane as the planes were flying. You literally had people falling out of the sky during that Afghanistan pullout. It was an absolute catastrophe the way it was executed. That was the turning point in terms of his poll numbers. He was above 50%. When that happened, he plummeted to the low 40s. He has never recovered because that pullout of Afghanistan was his 47% moment, right? When we remember in the 2012 campaign, when Mitt Romney was caught on a hot mic saying 47% of the country are lazy and they're never going to take care of themselves, right? We just have to not worry about them. That confirmed everyone's deepest fears about Mitt Romney, which was that he was an out-of-touch, rich prick.
Right.
And what the Afghanistan pullout did was the exact same thing to Joe Biden. It confirmed people's deepest fears that this guy was not up for the job because a week before the Afghanistan pullout, he's on camera staring into space saying, yeah, no, we feel really good about how it's going to happen. Yeah, we're pretty confident. We don't think the Taliban will necessarily regain power.
Those people hanging from the helicopters, that's a Kabul production of Miss Saigon.
Right. So when you're on camera, I don't know if it was a week before, this was a couple years ago, but a month before, whatever it was, just staring into space, mumbling about how you're confident that the pullout's going to be fine, and then it goes down like that, that confirms what everybody suspected, which is that you're not up for the job, right? Yes, Mika, 1,000 in the chat. Thank you very much. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button for those of you who are here. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate that. But he says, okay, he was super based for pulling out of Afghanistan, super based for telling the media to suck his nuts. But then he goes on to give the caveat immediately after.
And he went down in the polls, but he pulled out and said, no, I'm not going to go back in. Now, we can talk about all the, the negative things, like he's
starving the people of Afghanistan with sanctions?
Starving Afghanistan right now via sanctions.
That's right. That's
starving schmarving.
I called it. Right. I knew you were going to say that. How'd I know? I got it working. Got the mojo working.
He did a drone strike that killed innocents on the way out of Afghanistan.
Forgot about that.
And so I could do the whole spiel. Like, here's the 20 areas where he's wrong. Ripped up the Iran agreement, is not getting back into it. It didn't lift a finger for the public option or the PRO Act. Gave up on $15 minimum wage for the whole country. Bombed Syria.
Incarcerated two generations of black and brown people sexually assaulted and aged. I could get into all that. I worked with segregationists. Opened his campaign waxing nostalgic about how much he used to get done with those segregationists. Promised that nothing would fundamentally change. I could go on.
I can go on.
Has us on the verge of World War III.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Notice nowhere in that analysis at all was any mention of the Russia-Ukraine war. Zero. We're going to come back to that in a few minutes.
$15 corporate minimum wage, billions of dollars for Made in America green jobs, which was part of the IRA, the PACT Act, which gave health care to toxic burn pit victims who are veterans, massively reducing the drone war. And he did all this stuff without a fucking supermajority. Obama had a supermajority, and he did like 40% of what Biden was able to do. So I look at that and I go, my purity test in 2020 was like, if I was convinced Joe Biden would just do a couple of the things that I support, just like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 at most. Just like if I thought for sure he's going to get me victories on some 3 things I like, then I would suck it up and vote for him. And my point back then was, I don't think he's going to fucking do it.
Okay, I mean, this just also shows a lack of serious. It shows what gamesmanship is involved, right? It just shows
he's contradicting himself. He said, "Well, it's not a swing state. You would have voted for Stein anyway, right? In New York, you were in New York. There were no stakes. There were no stakes to it. Like he's making it as if this was something he wrestled with and decided with his conscience.
Well, that's
no,
true.
I can't vote for Joe Biden, but now I realize how much better he is, and you're saying right here, you lived in New York before, and you're not going to be in New York now.
Right, that's true. I didn't think of that. He did say at the beginning of this, well, in New York, of course, you vote green anyway, right? No matter what, you vote for who is better. And now he's saying, well, if you would have named 3 things, I'd have voted for you in New York. But also, where does the 3 things come from? It just seems very arbitrary. It just feels like this is a guy with no real skin in the game who has no real, nothing at stake, if anything. Oh, we'll pick 3 items. Give me 3 items, right? There are people who need to have their medical debt forgiven, or else they're not going to be able to retire ever, right? There are people who need student debt forgiven. There are people who need a $15 minimum wage, or at this point, a $15 minimum wage is probably a joke. Really, it has to be 20 now, really, at least, right? I mean, there are people with real needs. There aren't people who just say, oh, yeah, give me 3 things, right? We're come on, talk to me, make a deal, right?
Well,
give me 3 items.
He's fucking rich now.
Right,
I mean, even besides his fucking sugar mama, he's making his own money. He's making what? According to, look, we don't know if this is completely accurate, but it's feasible. According to, what you can find about his income on Google, it's 2.2 million, which that's totally believable. Like,
look, according to what we're making on YouTube at 11,000 subscribers, yeah, I can imagine at 1 million, whatever, he's doing pretty well.
Because you're talking about he's doing this 12 years. You got your patrons, you've got his advertising
you got the
revenue.
ads, yeah, of course. No, he's
you got the ads. So he's fucking rich. None of this is existential for him. This is, but I gotta say, having watched the whole clip, not the whole thing. I mean, what is that, like an hour? I can't. But having watched this section,
I think he paywalled most of it. I think this was the free sample.
This was the free. All right, these are probably the smartest things he says in this video. Like the level of stupidity he sinks to by the end of it makes Zach and Gavin look like fucking Kissinger on his best day.
We'll get into that.
The things he says are just stunning is stunningly moronic. They're so moronic, you just have to ask, is he really this stupid, or is this for the cameras? Like, what? Really? Does he actually believe what he's saying right now? What's going on here?
I said I was a little surprised that the Vanguard hitched their wagon to his star, but now I kind of understand because he puts them on next to him. They don't look so bad, right? Maybe it was
they look great. I keep making the comparison. It's like when Geraldo interviewed Manson. He was the only guy who could have made Manson look good in an interview.
This is not paywall. This was the free bit, but I think the entire episode with the Vanguard boys was behind a paywall. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure because I got I got an email saying because I'm on their Substack as a free subscriber because like to keep in touch with what's going on, like to keep my ear close to the ground, and I actually secretly love Kyle. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Based on his whole career as a senator, I don't think he's going to do it. I think he's super goddamn conservative. But then now I look at it and I go, number one, I actually probably should have voted for him. I didn't. I actually didn't vote in 2020, but I kind of should have voted for him, number one. Number two.
Why? I've never seen a person regret not having voted for Joe Biden. Like, who? And in this space, you're actually going to say, I didn't vote for him, but in retrospect, I wish I did? Why? You lived in New York, Kyle. Wouldn't that have just been a virtue signal? Wouldn't that have been a meaningless virtue signal? Because that's what we're all supposed to think.
Well, it's funny because I think anybody who's left the corporate media matrix, one of the things you start to notice after you take the red pill is how they all have the same narrative at the same time, almost like somebody made a phone call. And it's not that somebody made a phone call. It's that all it takes is one of the outlets they follow to publish a hot take, and then they all copy it, right? So if it's on the op-ed page of the Washington Post, the New York Times, Boston Globe, whatever, they'll all imitate it. It's funny to see alternative media doing this, because this is the same exact take Ryan Grimm was pushing last week, right? The regretful Jill Stein voters, the people who now wish they voted for Joe Biden. Who are these fucking people? Who are they? Where are they? In the Ryan Grimm
I could
piece,
see if you're a really just insecure person. I can understand how a person would regret having voted for Stein against Clinton if they are lib adjacent, because Clinton actually lost the election, right? So I could. It is conceivable to me that a person would be like, oh, I mean, I think they're nuts, but I could at least buy that. Who regrets not voting for Biden? He won. It's not like not like you changed the outcome.
Who are these people?
How do you look back and say, man, I wish I had voiced my support?
Yeah, we dug into the Ryan Grimm piece. He had to find some fucking random blogger, and she didn't even say that.
Right.
She was thinking about it.
She's like, maybe I should have. Yeah,
maybe I
should have.
Maybe I shouldn't have. I don't know.
Just had nothing else to blog about
today.
Please
subscribe.
Exactly.
If it comes down to Trump versus Biden or DeSantis versus Biden, and I'm in Virginia, I think I would go cast a vote for Biden, because for all the issues he has far surpassed my expectations. But now it complicates it even more, because Cornel West is running, and I fucking love Cornel West, and he's way more in alignment with my politics. So if I was in New York, I probably would still vote for Cornel West and not for Biden. So anyway, tell me your thing.
I mean, look, I don't want to nitpick too much, because I understand you're on a microphone, and you don't control every single word with the precise accuracy that you wanted to. If people nitpick me like that, I would be, have my head, caked in shit as well. But what do you mean you'd probably vote for Cornel in New York? Shouldn't you definitely? I mean, if you're in a safe state and Cornel West is on the ballot against Joe Biden, not probably, right? I mean, I won't go too hard on you. I understand. All right, give you a pass on that one.
And why you're more or less convinced that it's the right thing to do to go Cornel West.
All right, gotcha. A lot to respond there.
Yeah, sorry about that spiel.
All right, now he tosses to the brains of the panel. The brains of the panel here, right? It's true. I'm not lying. He is the brains of the panel.
That's a great freeze frame.
Exactly. All right, here we go.
No, you're great. That's a lot of good stuff. So first of all, I do live in a safe state. I live in Missouri, which is 100% gonna go red. It does every year, at least during my lifetime. At one point, not so much, but now it is solidly red state. Joe Biden's not going to win it. In my opinion, it's going to go to the Republicans no matter who I vote for. So I'm going to vote for Cornel West in the general election, despite acknowledging, and I think it is important for us lefties to acknowledge that, yes, Joe Biden is the lesser of two evils, and I would much rather him be president again than Donald Trump be president again. I think it's a huge red flag of a faux populist when you start hearing people like Jimmy Dore making the argument that actually Trump is the lesser of two evils.
Boy.
Yeah, that is literally
less of a fascist.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Now things are going to start to get interesting. Says, of course, Joe Biden is the lesser evil. It's laughable when you hear fake populists like Jimmy Dore talk about Trump being the lesser evil. Let's hear Kyle's response to that.
Just to be clear, that is of all the things he said, that is by far and away the dumbest shit I've ever heard him say. And for Sam Cedar to chime in and say, I'll debate him, I was watching that like, if he doesn't want to do it, I'll fucking do it. I'll do it.
Please do.
Please do.
Please.
Yes.
Please, Jesus God, make that happen.
I would love to see that. I would honestly love to see that happen. That would be quite amazing. So, yes, I hope we can make this happen.
I am going to call the Make-A-Wish Foundation and have them reach out on my behalf. I'm going to tell them I've only got 3 weeks left.
Exactly. All right, now let's hear this. Let's hear this. This is my favorite part.
And for Sam Cedar to chime in and say, I'll debate him, I was watching that like, if he doesn't want to do it, I'll fucking do it. I'll do it. Because that shit is, are you, like, do you have any brain cells left to make that argument? Like, that's the thing I don't like. He's a narrative humper, and he's a terminal contrarian. So he has his narrative, which is like, actually, Democrats are the bigger evil. And it's like, if you follow the news at all in modern day, you would know for sure that it's factually false. Or you do know that and you're lying because you're...
Let me play that one more time.
And he's a terminal contrarian. So he has his narrative, which is like, actually, Democrats are the bigger evil. And it's like, if you follow the news at all in modern day, you would know for sure that it's factually false.
If you follow the news at all in modern day, you would know that that is factually false. Well, if you follow the news at all in modern day, you would know that there's a war going on in Europe right now that has the potential to go global and nuclear. And in that whole 7-minute spiel you just went on, you did not utter a single word about that. A war that Joe Biden and NATO helped provoke by egging on Ukraine to join NATO. And now that it has started, Joe Biden at every turn has helped escalate that war, including destroying the Nord Stream pipeline, which, to speak to your other point, the greatest carbon bomb in the history of the world, the greatest man-made carbon bomb. If you follow the news at all, you would know that. But you wouldn't necessarily know that if your version of news is the Kyle Kulinski Secular Talk YouTube channel. Let's see how much interest Kyle has shown in this issue, right? He does a news and politics show. You'd think he'd have something to say about the defining issue of our time, which is World War III, which his president, the so-called lesser evil, has egged on at every chance. Let's peruse the catalog.
You would never know it to listen to Kyle or any of the shows.
Where's the Ukraine content? Where?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah.
Here, we have Marjorie Taylor Greene holding up a dick pic. Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, Elon Musk, Sean Hannity, Ron DeSantis, George Santos. Where? Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
Where are the Ukraine segments here? Where? I don't see anything.
Or the East Palestine segments.
Or the East Palestine.
Or the Union segments.
Right. Or the censorship segments. Where?
Oh, censorship. Forget about it. Wait,
right.
Was it RFK?
Jonah Hill.
Didn't RFK just get dragged in front of that committee?
Yeah, no. Nothing to say about that. A fake left-wing account. I'm honestly looking for a Ukraine segment. This is now 3 weeks. We're now 3 weeks back in the timeline. I don't see a single thing. Not a single segment. This guy does this for a living. Does a news and politics channel for a living. Every day. Comments on this. Where? Where is it? We're going back. Now we're
Alex Jones. Playing the oldies.
We're 1 month back now. Oh, here it is. Coup attempt in Russia. Oh, yeah. This was the thing that he actually reported Western propaganda that there was a coup attempt in Russia, which ended up being totally wrong. Okay, so that was 4 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago. And that's not even really a Ukraine segment. I mean, who's responding to breaking news.
Right.
When was the last critical take on Ukraine? Now we're a month. Over a month. Where? I don't see it. Anyway, you get the point. You get the
Jane,
point.
you ignorant
If you're
slut.
following the news at all, you would know that Biden is the lesser evil. Completely ignoring perhaps the most consequential issue of any of our lifetimes.
Well,
that is completely absent from his calculation. That he says, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard Jimmy Dore say, that Donald Trump is the lesser evil. Oh, you mean the guy who promised to end the war in 24 hours is not the lesser evil to the guy who has egged this war on at every turn and could get half the global population nuked over it? I mean, it's one thing, like, if you want to acknowledge that but still say despite that, you think Biden is a lesser evil? Good luck making that argument. I don't think it's a very good argument, but you could try to make it. He does not even mention World War III in any of that. He went on for 7 fucking minutes, not a single mention of the most important consequential issue of our time. And you go, well, if you follow the news, you'll know that Biden's the lesser evil. I mean, what fucking ignorant nonsense. And for a guy who does this every day for a living, so-called progressive commentator.
Well, that's where I'm very confused by the whole segment. Does he actually believe the things he's saying? You can only justify this perspective by completely ignoring Ukraine. And most of them do for that reason. Because once you get into that, who is better? The person who says, yeah, I'm gonna end this war as soon as I get into office, or the person who wants to escalate this weekly? Every week, Something we said we weren't going to do, we're doing. Now we're sending them cluster bombs. Now we're training them on F-16s. Now we've signed off on other countries providing them F-16s. Now we found out we have 1,000 boots on the ground. We have 1,000 boots on the ground there. So if you take on that reality, how do you justify this is just crazy? This is just crazy. They have to make it out that it's crazy by focusing only on culture. And yes, economics. Are Democrats marginally better? I mean, the evidence on the ground, it does not really play out that way. Like, will they go as out of their way to interfere with union drives as the Republicans will? Not as a rule, but the overall effect of their lack of support and the fact that if shit gets real, as it did in the railroad strike, they'll do what the Republicans would do anyway. What does it add up to? In the end, you end up in the same place.
No, they give tiny crumbs as political bribes in order to empower and enable progressive commentators and progressive media to go out and make exactly the case that he just made, which is that, see, here, now you have a more labor-friendly council on the NLRB board than you would under Trump. So there, what are you going to say about that? What are you going to say about that?
Right.
How is he not less reasonable on that?
And that's as far as it goes. And in the end, it doesn't really do very much for the average person. Exactly. It's enough crumbs for them to make some kind of a distinction without very much of a difference. But that really explains the scroll that you just did. The reason Ukraine is not there is that they don't want to be in a position where they have to make a case for it. Some of them will make a full-throated case for it, like TYT. They will just go ahead and make a full-throated case for it. I think there are a lot of people who maybe are more conscious or feel more that that's a contradiction of being left, so they just avoid the topic entirely. Because if you don't avoid the topic entirely, how can you make the statement he just made there? You're actually in a world of complexity. So this is where it's confusing to me. I mean, Kyle has become a full-blown just shill. I mean, he's just a shill. I don't watch Breaking Points as much as I used to, but when I've seen Crystal do her radars and her monologues, she's certainly tainted by her association with Marianne. But I've never seen her go this full-on, just batshit crazy, absurd, stupid, full-on Biden support. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I have not seen her drop that kind of a formulation. Maybe she has, like I said.
Or I don't give it time. I mean, we're still
early. I could definitely see her getting there. But I'm just a little surprised at just this take being the only difference between this and your standard CNN take is, the idea of playing footsie with third parties in safe states. Other than that, this is a CNN take. So I just don't understand what you're doing in an alternative media space. And more to the point, I don't understand who would want to watch that. Like, if you want that, just turn on CNN.
Right. No, exactly. And on the Jimmy Dore challenge, I will just say, obviously, it's up to him. It's up to them. I personally, as an audience member, would love to see it.
I would. Okay, so there are a couple things you didn't clip that were kind of interesting. And this is, we're not giving the Vanguard boys their due. We're not showing their best moments. So Zach actually had a very interesting moment that Kyle immediately shut down. He shut it down.
You're proud of your boy. He made you proud.
He made me proud. He's got a little of the old man in him. Kyle shut that down so fast. I got to wonder if he's getting paid by the CIA at this point. So Zach actually, because they talked a little about Ross Perot. He was coming up. They talked a little about Jesse Ventura. And Zach says that would be amazing if Cornel West did as well as Ross Perot. That would just be great. And that's not on script. That doesn't fit the narrative that Kyle is laying out. Kyle immediately shut that down. No, they would just demonize him. And, so they're the Vanguard dealing with this, famous longtime YouTuber. So immediately they just bow their head. Yeah. No, you're right. They would just demonize him. But what the fuck does that even mean? Of course they would demonize him. That's not a bug. That's a feature. That's
Right,
the fucking point.
That's the point. That's the whole
point. You're going to make their fucking heads explode if he did what Ross Perot do.
18 and a half, 19 something.
We could only drink. And so, but Kyle immediately goes to making that a negative thing because they're gonna be mad at him. Like, it didn't even make any fucking sense. It made no sense. And then later on, this was the dumbest thing that Kyle said in this entire segment. This was towards the end of the clip. I think they asked him if they thought that Cornel could win in the primaries. I think he was responding to a question they asked. And he says, with a straight face, with all seriousness, he says, yes, well, I think he could have won the Democratic primaries. Sure, don't get me wrong. They're gonna do shenanigans and they put their thumb on the scale. But look at Bernie. He got 45%. Exactly, you fucking moron. Look at Bernie.
Oh, well, that was another point that we really should have got into also, where he says, well, Jill Stein only got like 3% in 2016. Bernie got 45%. Yeah, he got 45% of the scrimmage match vote. Those are apples and oranges. You're comparing two different contests. Bernie Sanders got 0. I mean, there were some people who wrote him in, obviously, but he got effectively 0 in 2016. Jill Stein got 3. Bernie scored 45 in the scrimmage match to determine who got to take place in the actual election. So you're comparing two completely different processes. That's like saying the worst basketball team in the league is better than the best baseball team in the league because the basketball team scores more points. Well, yeah, of course you're going to score more points in basketball where you average 85 points a game than in baseball where you average 4 runs a game. It's a completely different competition.
Right.
Bernie got more. Bernie got 45%. He got 45% in a rigged process that was then out of the way and over with and made no difference whatsoever in the final vote count in November. Jill Stein was on the ballot in November. So, of course, she was more consequential in 2016 than Bernie Sanders in terms of the final vote count. So what are you talking about?
Right. He is not talking about the fact that in the end, you don't get to vote for Bernie Sanders.
Right.
He's not talking about the fact he's trying to minimize it. Yeah, they put the thumb on the scale. He's trying to make it like it's still winnable, that it's not just so rigged that they would never let somebody like Cornel win. He's not even, and I'm okay, fine. He's not even getting into the fact that not in a million years would the people who show up to vote in a Democratic primary, even without rigging, nominate Cornel West. That would never, against a sitting president.
Against a sitting president, right.
Never, ever, ever happen. They wouldn't need to rig it. There would be no shenanigans. But you're a, 12-year political commentator? And this is the fucking nonsense you're telling your audience? That you think if Cornel West ran, he could actually win in a Democratic primary? And you're also tacitly implying that even though the Democrats might do some dirty tricks, in the end, it's an essentially fair process.
Right, exactly.
Where an outsider could actually win? You're telling your audience that?
Well, because once you shatter that illusion, then there's no rationale for your Mary Anns or your pet candidates.
That is what really struck me, that he has to present this theory of the case, because otherwise, what are you doing with Marianne? Like everything goes back to Marianne with these two. Ultimately, everything's about trying to, at this point, I don't even think trying to protect Marianne. I think protect themselves. They're trying to save face, because at this point, if you look at the classic crystal ball eye roll in that monologue that we covered, they know they got egg on their face.
Oh, yeah.
They know that they stuck their necks out and embarrassed themselves. And lost a lot of credibility as political commentators. So now they're just trying to shore up the idea that there was some sense to this doomed campaign, that God knows how many of their people they got to waste time, and I hope not a lot, money on that fucking shell game of a campaign that they promoted. But also he says at one point, look at how many more people would be hearing Cornel now if he were running as a Democrat. And I think, no, that's not the best part. He says, and then he'd be able to force a debate. Asshole, your fucking Topanga Canyon guru there did do all of this. Do you see a debate forthcoming? RFK, who's polling a lot better than your candidate, he's not forcing a debate. They are not giving you a debate. They wouldn't give you a debate if you were leading in the polls.
Right. Exactly. No, exactly.
You
That's
understand? Right. This is what I don't get. Are you this ignorant? Are you this dishonest? I did that whole video showing how he got in front of a camera and just completely lied about what was in the Political article about Marianne, and that's why he didn't put it on screen, because what he was saying it said was not what it said. So the whole thing, and if you watch alternative media, anyone who covers an article puts it up on screen, right? So you can go back, you can look at that breakdown. So he is willing to go on camera, look into it, and just straight out lie to his audience. So you look at all this, and you just, I don't know him personally. We don't know him personally, but you have to walk away and say, is he this fundamentally clueless after going through the two Sanders campaigns and all the years he's covering politics? Or has he just become just so fundamentally dishonest that he has just thrown any consideration for his audience and the people who trust him completely out the window in favor of whatever grift he thinks he's running here? I don't know which it is, honestly. It's one or the other.
Yeah. Indeed. All right, well, that puts a button on that segment. We have another segment to do, folks. Don't go anywhere. We have the Surf and Turf segment. The Surf and Turf coming up soon. But we got to get to some super chats because we have quite a bit of them. This is a member chat from John Moore. When you're a member chat, our producer, Jake, which, by the way, another round of applause for Jake in the producer booth here, flags them. And there's a chance we'll read these too. What do you think the odds are Biden is actually the nominee in 2024? People are getting more skeptical about that, I understand. I still think that's overwhelmingly likely. If he's not, they will swap him out for health reasons, and they'll put up a Gavin Newsom or somebody. They'll find somebody. It's not going to be Marianne or RFK, not in a million years. But it's possible they might switch Biden out if they have to. I think it's unlikely, but possible.
If they have to, which it could happen. I mean, if his brains are leaking out of his ears badly enough, and what appearances they can't avoid because he is running for president after all, if it gets embarrassing enough, they might. You never know, man.
No, I mean, the chances are small, but not infinitesimal. No.
Yes.
For sure. Dave Dillerai, thank you for the $8. Appreciate that very much. From far away, it looks like a brick wall is talking when he has that background. We need his face superimposed as a talking brick wall. Who looks like a brick wall? Russell, because the books are straight?
No, I think he's talking about Kyle, no?
Oh, from Kyle. Oh, okay. All right, interesting. Yes, because there is a brick wall behind Kyle. Is that okay? That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that would make no sense.
All right.
This looks nothing like a brick wall.
So I don't know. It came in a while ago. I'm not sure if we started the segment by then. Baphomet Barbie was created in 2016. Still sold on Pinterest. Is that true? Wow.
I mean, if that's true, I think I know what tchotchke is going on my bookcase next.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you very much. Colin, ask Indy to guest host. Maybe we'll put together a panel. I have some requests out, but I will get back to you guys on that for sure, because we're going to need a guest host on Friday. But thank you, Colin. Appreciate it. Sean, thanks for the $3. We appreciate that super sticker, my friend.
Thank you.
Caleb, thanks for the $4.99. TST, the Satanic Temple, is a secular activist group that works. Freedom of religion means freedom from religion. Been a member for 2 years. Most are atheists. Hail Satan. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's what my research has yielded. I overall I like what those guys are doing. As a freedom of speech person, I appreciate their tactics.
Indeed. Ellen Jimerson, I appreciate Savage Joy Marie and her colleagues. It's not easy. Good job. Yes, absolutely good job by Savage Joy. I'm really, really proud of both of those segments that we did with her, and much more proud, obviously, of the work that she put in.
And I'm proud of our people, man. We got a lot of donations from.
We raised about $1,200 for that rally last we heard. Indeed. Yep. That was based on her original appearance. We had $1,200 worth of donations come into her mutual aid Give Send Go, mentioning our show. So good job to all of you. Proud of you guys too. Mosaic, thanks for the $2. Kyle has surpassed Emma Vigeland now. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, look, he has really established himself as one of the more...
those two really should have ended up together.
Yeah. George
That would
Gunnell.
make more sense.
Thanks for the $4.99. Thank you, Marie, and thanks to the Due Dissidence channel for the Grassroots Mutual Aid update. You guys rock. Well, thank you, sir. It's our pleasure. I know that she had some audience watching. I don't know if you were more involved in that project than we were, but we're obviously happy to do our part here. So we're glad that the event went well. And by go well, obviously I meant that you got eyes on it. You built some community there. That's what it's all about. That's, at the end of the day, 1,000 times more important than what we're doing here fucking around on YouTube. So it's great that we can help amplify that. Jessica, thanks. Brian Craig thinks there is only a homeless issue in Florida with working people living in cars. Far right idiot radio host. Okay. Is that where you're from, Jessica? Are you from Florida? I forgot. I'm not sure. But thank you for the comment. Tusker, the VOC museum has actual photos of Stalin eating babies. We should go to that museum. We should go to the memorial and check it out.
Hey, Tusker, you would probably know this. So is it true that Stalin had a piece of Hitler's skull that he had them bring to him because he wanted to see the proof they were dead? So tell me what your sources say about that.
Put it in the chat, indeed. Eric Rousseau, did you see Roseanne Barr Piers Morgan clip? Did I? I know there was a Piers Morgan clip going around.
I'm trying to think.
But I'm not sure if it was her. I know Piers Morgan was in the news recently, so it must have been her. I didn't watch it, but I did see the clip going around. Maybe I will. Thanks for the tip, though, and thanks for the donation. A lot of these to read through. We're going to read through some of them after the last segment. Don't worry, we won't keep all you guys here all night, but we do want to get through all of our super chats. These are super helpful. Thank you so much for your generosity. And please, folks, hit that like button to get more eyes on this stream. And please do hit that subscribe button if you are here. We did pass the 11,100 subscriber mark, so that's cool. We are now at 11,103. Beautiful. Thank you, guys. No small feat, says Jenna Tills. Thanks for the $5 to match your hair and your beard and your suit to your suit, though. I bet his socks are beige as well. Yeah, man, he's really sticking with that hair. It's weird because he knows he gets a lot of shit for that hair. You know what I mean?
I thought he was gonna go back when he
went back for the wedding photos. Apparently.
Yeah. But why would you do that?
Why would you go back right after? I don't get it. Mountain Dew Ramen. I like that screen name. Just like the used car salesman in True Lies before Arnold decks him. Is that a Kyle reference? I've never actually seen True Lies. Never.
I think I saw it back in the day.
I know it was huge back in the day. It was a huge movie. Yeah, this is James Cameron. Big film. Eric Rousseau, Roseanne Barr told him Ukraine is full of Nazis. Okay, interesting. I'll have to watch that.
Oh, did she?
I'll have to watch that.
Good for her.
I didn't know she thought Nazis existed.
Yeah.
McDougal, thanks for the $5. New to the show, but enjoy hearing your guys' perspective. Trump supporter. Sorry, that's okay. That's all right.
It's okay.
Well, welcome here.
A lot of our best friends are Trump supporters.
Exactly. And he is the lesser evil.
Look, man, where I came from in Queens, the people who voted for Trump.
Right. Yep, you've mentioned that in the past. That you knew some Bernie people and some Trump people, no Hillary people in their own neighborhood.
No, not a single person voted for Hillary or was willing to vote for Hillary.
Right. That's not voting harder, Kyle. Yeah, was that in response to my little whiteboard presentation about the ranked choice voting? Indeed. Thanks, Colin, for the $5. Kyle lived in New York and didn't vote at all in 2020, even though he was in a safe state. Yeah, he didn't vote green in 2020. I did vote green in 2020. Of course, I voted for Hawkins, who's pretty piss poor as Green Party people go, as we know.
I voted black.
Yes.
Dave Chappelle.
Indeed. Russell wrote in Dave Chappelle.
I've
Donahue.
been voting for black men since 2008.
I know. Russell has not voted for a white person for president since when? 2004, right?
Yeah.
You must have voted for Kerry that
Yeah,
year, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So that was the last white man you voted for president. Wow.
Yeah. I'm
Look at that.
looking like Dave Chappelle again.
Look at how woke he is.
No, now I got Cornel.
Now you got Cornel. Well, that keeps your streak alive.
Yeah. Either way, it's going to be Chappelle or it's going to be Cornel. If Cornel holds the line, it'll be Cornel.
Well, that's what we should all say. If we really want to troll the woke,
or Cornel.
If we really want to troll the woke libs in the run up to the race, when they start begging us to switch from Cornel to Biden, we just tell them, listen, I just cannot bring myself to vote for a white man. I'm sorry.
I
wish I could.
I'm not going to perpetuate the cycle of colonizing our spaces.
Yeah, exactly. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. Patrick Donahue, you're up late tonight. You put this in at 9 o'clock. It's got to be, 2, 3 in the morning over there? Thank you for the donation. Kyle has gotten so unlikable. He does nothing but talk. He dodged speaking at the Medicare for All rally. He said he's an introvert, yet wants to talk tough now with JD for a debate to get clout. He's out for himself and money. Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, I don't want to instigate if I'm not supposed to, but I would just love to see that. I would think it would be great. I think that debate would be pretty awesome.
That would be, I can't compare it to a great prize fight. I got to think of a prize fight where they were completely undermatched.
Yeah, well, it was
Ali Spinks.
Yeah, who did Tyson knock out in like a minute? Where the people wanted their money back.
Yeah, what was the name of that guy?
I forget the other guy. It wasn't Holyfield. It wasn't the ear fight.
No,
it was the fight before that.
No.
There was a fight before that where the crowd was chanting bullshit because the tickets cost thousands of dollars and it didn't even last a round.
And he knocked him out in a minute. I mean, that was the one that really built his legend.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There we go. All righty. Cool Blue. Thanks for the $9.99. Crystal Kyle and Friends background hue is for people thinking of home decorating and wall colors. Ultralight, neutral, safe, peaceful, dull. Given the content's actually quite appropriate. Yeah, it just seems like it's a very, very weird backdrop, right? I mean, it just seems like very, very crazy. Here, what would our show look like if we did this? Would you take us seriously as commentators if this were our background? Look at our background. No. Right? Doesn't work. What if we talk the same shit we talk now, but this
that's so incongruous with the show. It would just be strange.
Exactly. What if this were the background of the show?
Like if we made that our background, we would end up getting a lot more complaints to YouTube because it would draw in all the wrong people.
Right, we're drawing
horrified by what they got.
Exactly. That's the point I was making there. Kelly Watson, thanks for the $1.99. Kyle's trying to be the liberal Ben Shapiro. Thank you for the $1.99. We appreciate that. All right, we got a few more here, but we do have to press on. So we'll do a couple more here because I don't want to make you guys wait too long for the super chat. Janice Anderson, thanks for the $5. First past the post is an invented term to inspire fear voting. There is no post, just plurality vote. Exactly. That's another very good point. There is no post. It's plurality wins. Right? There's no threshold that you have to cross. So excellent point. Also, star voting is preferable to ranked choice.
All right. Little correction. Yeah, that's right. You're right. That's why it was such a big story. Leon Spinks beat Ali. But then didn't they have a rematch and Ali came back and beat Leon Spinks? You know why it's hard to think of an apt comparison? Because if the guy was a meatball, you don't remember who it was.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because those are the disposable people that they knocked out.
Emoji, thanks for the $5. FYI, RBN has local chapters. Yep, we knew that. Everybody should know that in the chat, so thanks for pointing that out. CJ just had a Green Party interview on his Long Beach chapter RBN channel. Good. Excellent. Yeah, I want to start interviewing some party people myself, too, for sure. All right, one more for now. We will get to all of these before we wrap, we promise, but one more for now from Corey Weichman. Thank you for the 1999s. Very generous donation, sir. Kulinski called outdoor, but is obviously ignoring RBN on purpose. Yes, RBN has actually answered the call saying, hey, I'll do it on the same point. I saw Nick actually did tweet that at him. They have Cornel West on regularly, yet Kulinski doesn't know who they are. Okay, sure. Yeah, no, he knows who they are. He obviously knows who they are. Alrighty, folks. So we have one more segment of the night, the Surf and Turf special. We are proud to bring that to you. So let's see. Lance from the Serfs, and by the way, those who did super chat us, don't worry, we will read all of them before we wrap. We just don't want to keep all the viewers up too late, so we want to get this done first. But don't worry, we will get to all super chats and all Rumble rants. Don't worry, we have not forgotten you over there in the Rumble chat. All righty, so let's get to this right now. Lance from the Serfs sought to further paint TYT host Anna Kasparian as a right-wing grifter by posting a screenshot from a recent video she did on Portugese drug policy. So he tweeted out the following, and I apologize, folks, for the size of the graphic here. I had to pull these graphics off my phone on my personal Twitter account because the Serfs, along with Olaimi Olurin, have in fact blocked the Do Dissidents account. So I had to use my burner, which I didn't intend as a burner. I just intended as a personal account.
You should have told me, because they haven't blocked me, I don't think.
Oh, and you have Twitter on your computer,
because I
right?
never interact with them. So
that's true. That's true. So you could have pulled these. But anyway, it's a little small, but it's all right. We'll get the point, right? He tweets out this screenshot of Anna's recent video. Got to be liberating not to have to pretend anymore, right? And if you can see the screenshot of that video, she's talking about Portuguese decriminalization of drugs has backfired. So he's obviously just trying to, repaint her as this sort of, Karen type, which, is not totally inaccurate in certain contexts, but it is inaccurate, in this context. Because she tweets back, she says, listen, I get that a dishonest and untalented clown like Lance needs to distract. True. Yes, indeed. No lies there. Where's the lie? Where's the lie?
No lies detected.
No lies detected. Listen, I get that a dishonest and untalented clown like Lance needs to distract from his embarrassing debate with Tim Pool. This is a very Trumpian tweet, in a good way. I understand his embarrassing debate with Tim Pool.
His failed debate.
His failed debate was a disaster.
So they never saw anything like it.
Never seen it.
They had to call in a cleaning crew to get the blood off the floor.
Exactly. So he's going to post a screenshot of a story I covered and mischaracterize what I said. Here's the full video. So she posts the link to the full video that she did on Portuguese drug policy, which, Russ, you pulled a clip from. We're going to play actually two clips, but do you want to set this clip up? Because once again, just like in the Vanguard section, this was a 20-minute video. We weren't going to play the whole thing, but we can explain the thrust of it and then show clips that sort of back up what we're saying here.
Okay, so throughout, for the first 5 minutes of this video, she does nothing but praise what they did in Portugal, which was to essentially decriminalize drugs, at least in terms of enforcement, needle exchanges. But part of that was they put a lot of money into offering, they didn't force them into it, but into offering rehabilitation services. Now, later on, they cut that funding by, it looked like 80 to 90%. And after they cut that funding, with what little they had, the government could not afford to offer those services. So they subcontracted it out to private organizations. At that point, what had been a great result, she actually shows that on TYT, they were covering this favorably. She showed a clip of Cenk back in 2012 talking about, I think it cut down on drug addiction and rehab service needs by 50%.
Yeah, by half, yeah.
By half. So they were doing nothing but praising this. Her criticism was you can't have the needle exchange and handing out the crack pipes without those services. And when you turn them over to private services, they're not going to do them the way the government will, which is a that is about as left an argument as you can make, right?
Right. It's an argument against neoliberalism, against bureaucratic, outsourcing of essential government services to, government adjacent actors with their own agendas and own incentives.
So to be clear, there is absolutely...
Hey, maybe she should guest host with me on Friday.
Ask her. You never know. Maybe it's a lark. You ever hear that story about how the Beatles almost reunited?
Yeah.
Because what's his name? Lorne Michaels famously said, I'll give you guys $2,000 to come on and sing Love Me Do right now. And they happen to all be in New York at the same time. But there is no honest way you could have misinterpreted that video. Like she's very clear from the beginning. It's not like, well, maybe he just watched the beginning and didn't want. No, she spends the first 5 minutes of that video praising the program as it originally existed. This is just a complete smear job. There is absolutely no kind interpretation.
Right. So here's just a couple of quick clips from this.
Without going back to overly punitive policies. Let's just pause for a second. I want to reiterate that. I do not want to go back to war on drugs, like overly punitive policies. They did not work. They were not good. I do think that we can save this model, but we need to make some tweaks.
Okay, so that's, like I said, you don't have to agree with the tweaks, but she's clearly not saying lock them up and throw away the key. And in this clip that Russell picked out, she talks about how failure to adjust might result in a backlash where you do go back to those reactionary, right-wing, tough on crime, war on drug type policies. So here's that.
Her overall point is you have some cities on the West Coast emulating the Portugal model without really knowing all the facts and knowing that the Portugal model as it exists today is not working. That
of course
the good numbers are from what they were doing before. That's her whole point.
And on top of that, I don't claim to be an expert in this particular issue, but I can say I suspect that almost all of these cities do not have the social services in place that Portugal had at the beginning. Right.
She makes that point too. She talks about how they have universal health care.
Right. They have health care.
Social support services that we don't have.
Exactly. All right. So here she is.
Model is promising. I think Portugal's model is promising. It shows that it worked. They made some changes beginning in 2012, and those changes were not positive ones. They did not have a positive impact, but that's okay. Clearly they're reversing course, and I'm excited to see how the numbers change now that they're going back to a centralized government model.
Right, going back to a centralized government model, not going back to throwing people in prison, right, according to what she's saying. She's saying going back to a centralized government model where the social services are kept in-house, right?
Takes care of the services associated with their drug policies instead of kind of outsourcing them to these nonprofits. But the point that I'm trying to make here is sometimes you have to adapt to the situation changing. And clearly the situation changed in Portugal. And if we're going to point to Portugal as a success story, if we're going to implement Portugal's policies in US cities and use Portugal as an inspiration, we just got to make sure that we implement it correctly. Because my fear is if we don't, if the policies fail, the pendulum will swing in the opposite direction, and we need to prevent that from happening.
Okay, so that certainly corroborates.
Sounds pretty left.
On Twitter, where she put this was an additional reply to her first retort. So yeah, first she puts this out. I read this one already. This next tweet was below that one where she says, the whole point of the video was how Portugal's decriminalization policies were a success until the government cut funding for rehab/outsource work to nonprofits. Either you have issues with basic comprehension or you're a liar who's mischaracterizing things. It's both for Lance. That's true. That's true. Again, look, I don't claim to know this issue inside and out in order to take a side as to like how much of everything she's saying I agree with. That's not the point. The point is the guy clearly saw an opportunity to pounce and do a drive-by smear, which is in keeping with what that faction of the left has always done. Part of where they learned to do that, ironically, was by watching TYT, which is why I don't feel too bad for Anna or Cenk, because they made their bed. They're laying in it a bit, you know. But that's
Jordan
what's going
Peterson said it best.
Right.
Your children are hungry and you're on the plate.
And you're on the plate. Indeed. Indeed. But then, you know, she got a lot of replies, obviously. So we're going to go to Twitter right now, and I'll show you just a little bit of the response that she got here and her subsequent replies to them. So as you can see here, I'm unable to view the tweet because I'm logged in as Due Dissidents now, and I've blocked by the Serfs, so I can't read the tweet she's quoting. But this is the tweet we just showed you a few minutes ago. In response, Mort Red says, "What Tim Pool debate will follow? That Tim Pool debate, pardon me, will follow him for quite some time. What about meth? Yeah, embarrassing. No other word to describe it," says Anna. And then Defy Lies said, "You and Lance had the same take on abortion, though?" So then she quote tweeted that and says, "No, we do not have the same take on abortion. I do not agree with the notion that a woman should be able to terminate a healthy pregnancy at 9 months. Almost no one believes that except for Lance." And then she tweets separately out, "We are not winning with this kind of foolishness." We'll play this.
No. Hold on. Colorado legalized abortion up to 9 months with no medical reason required. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that decision.
Decision. Now, she says he agrees with that. You know, this goes back to her original tweet where she said, you know, either he's lacks basic comprehension skills or he's a liar. I don't know that Lance actually agrees with aborting a 9-month baby that's viable and healthy. He might just say that for the same reason he says anything, which is he knows how to stay on the good side of the sort of very, very woke cultural left. And he knows what he knows what risks he can and cannot take in terms of pissing them off, right? That's why they're so knee-jerk on all these other issues. That's why this whole thing started not when Anna started chirping about crime in Los Angeles and started speaking highly of Rick Caruso, which is something that I absolutely took issue with her at the time, right? What set these guys off was her asking to be called a woman. That was the red
straw
line
that
for
broke
these
the
guys.
camel's back.
Past that point, they could
that
not
says
have
it all.
watched.
That says it all. Because she's taken somewhat conservative positions on various things over the years, and more so recently. And here and there was some commentary on it, but they lost their fucking minds when she said she wanted to be called a woman. Like that was it. That was the end.
And it's the same level of analysis, the same level of engagement, the same level of argument on this than it was on that, right? There's a chyron that says, has decriminalization backfired? And they take that to mean, oh, well, that means she wants to lock the drug addicts up. What a right-wing, racist, anti-poor, punitive person she is. Same thing as when she says, hey, maybe it's not a good idea to give hormone therapy or gender-affirming surgery to minors. Right? We're just talking about minors. We're not talking about, grown people, right? We're talking about people under 18. Their reaction to that is the same thing. Well, you're a bigot, you're a reactionary, you're denying people's existence, right? That's the only level they're comfortable engaging on. And so it makes perfect sense if they react to that in that way. They would react to this chyron about this segment that way. And that, they would engage on the level that they do. It's the only level they're capable of engaging on, which is why now that they have cut TYT off, I'm telling you, you are going to see that faction of the left just melt away. It already is melting away. Olay has quit the leftist mafia show. She says it's not because of a beef with them. It's just because she can't deal with the drama anymore. Yeah, right. They're being exposed for the hypocrites that they are. Very shallow, superficial, uninspired, uncritical idiots that they've always been. They have nothing to say. They have no message, right? They have no reason to exist in this alternative media space anymore. What agenda are they pushing forward? What goals are they actually pushing forward? The only thing they serve to do is to jump down people's throats when they feel they've caught them in something that they can nail them for. And they play those cute little games like that. And now you have Anna, who used to do the very same thing. Now she's starting to push back on it. Can they sustain that? Can they survive that transformation? Right?
I don't
think so.
I don't think so, particularly because they're so fucking repulsive. What they believe is repulsive. They're at it. Looking at how this is developing, where she turned around and took on the 9-month abortion thing. It reminds me of the Simpsons line, as you know, somebody had to say it. I can't believe it was her. Anna seems to be taking it upon herself now that she's stepped in it to just go all the way and take on this core assumption that you've had amongst so much of that faction of the left, that these ideas are self-evident and not to be questioned. She's taking that on, and she's interrogating these core beliefs that minors should be given puberty blockers on demand on whatever shit they said that morning about what their gender is. That,
on the second doctor's visit, they should have a surgery.
Right. There shouldn't be gatekeeping, right? And it looks like she's going to go all the way into that territory, you know? I mean, this whole safe space, language is violence, which I'm thinking more and more was kind of the core belief from which all of these beliefs sprung. This whole personality style springs from the belief that language is violence. Therefore, if language is violence, then expressing beliefs is a form of assault. You look at the whole way that they behave, that's the core belief that they have in common. She really, underneath it all, is really going after that. She's going after this whole constellation of woke assumptions that, yes, TYT had more to do with spreading those ways of expressing yourself in the online left than anybody else. This is definitely their children coming for them. Yeah. So who wins that fight? Yeah, TYT has the money, they have the visibility, they have the subscriber base, and none of these people are particularly talented. Olay sounds like a fucking crazy person in a McDonald's. Fucking Lance over there sounds like somebody hit him in the back of the head with a shovel, and he's trying to articulate something about leftism as he picked it up in Portland. And David Dole is another one who's boring as shit. I don't know why he has a show. And then you have the Humanist Report. What's his name? I always forget that guy's name.
Mike Figueredo.
Mike Figueredo. I mean, what? You just want to watch this guy bitch and whine and complain and moan about whatever offended him that day? Like, who wants to watch a constellation of personalities like that talk about politics? It's a very small, limited niche audience for that.
Well, in this particular case, what I was going to say is that TYT in this particular case has basic facts of reality on their side, right? And that's it. And that I think explains the pivot in the first place. Like, I don't think they had a crisis of conscience where they thought, hey, maybe we should stop deliberately mischaracterizing other people's arguments, right? Which is the way they've buttered their bread for years and years and years. I think it got to a point where that grift could not sustain itself anymore, because you run up into a thing called real life where people start challenging your premises in ways that your grift cannot sustain. Right. And so they felt like at this point, okay, I guess we're going to have to make this pivot now. Not because of any choice they wanted to make, but because of a choice that was forced on them by, I'm sorry, people just making absurd arguments like you're a bigot if you would rather be called a woman than a birthing person, right? That's where it started. Once they jump on you for that, they're like, okay, at this point, we either go down with this ship or we change. And what TYT has always done throughout their time online has changed. They have evolved several different times. Once they run a certain scheme into the ground, they'll switch.
This
right?
is true. From what I know, like Cenk is not. I mean, I don't watch their show. I haven't watched it in years on the regular. From what I know, he's not quite pivoting with her. They're kind of clashing a little bit on these things. I mean, well, maybe that could be part of their marketing scheme. Like I would totally allow for that. But I think what you're seeing here, and this is a microcosm of something I think you're starting to see society-wide. People have had it with this shit. The arguments in favor of it are very weak, which is why everyone who's into this is pro-censorship, because they have to be, right? Because they cannot stand up to a knockdown, drag-out argument. Like their arguments are not strong enough for that. They have to stop you from speaking. More and more you're seeing pushback from society, and it doesn't take a lot for them to crumble. And in the end, what do they have other than their safe spaces, right? They just retreat to their little silos. And I think, as you're pointing out, they're hitting the upper limit of how much tolerance for that shit people have. And this is part of the backlash. And yeah, you could very well be right. I mean, TYT has always had a good sense of which way the wind is blowing. They're getting ahead of the counter trend.
Yeah, I think so. Indeed. All right, folks, we got some super chats left to take. Thank you guys very much for being here. We appreciate you all. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. You can go help us out at patreon.com/DoDissidents to support this show. You get access to supporter exclusive streams every month, twice a month, and you also get call-in access, is what I was thinking, to these regularly scheduled live streams. Keeper of Tracking, thanks for the $10. Watch Kyle in 2015, was a big fan, was on board with the Justice D thing. After Forced the Vote, Kyle got stale and stopped watching. I was one of the people Russell talked about in his radar recently. Interesting, yeah. In the Under the Radar. Kelly Watson, thanks for the $1.99. Kyle just ruined based. Yeah, exactly. That was one of the most based things any president's ever done.
Okay. Yeah, you know what's funny? He's a little old to be using that like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it definitely seemed like the old commentator trying to be cool because he has the young kids on the show.
Doing the young kids on the show, indeed. Russell, yeah, sure. I just saw your message. Yeah, if you want to start that, we can start that. Let me just read a couple more of these first. Franklin Worsham, thanks to the $4.99. Biden's legislation requires that all federal green spending must be matched with traditional fuel spending, so worse than nothing, right? Ensuring status quo. Yeah, well, I know that was the Inflation Reduction Act, right? That was the one that opened up 600 million acres of ocean land to drilling. That's the other thing. When it comes to the climate record, his climate record is so bad, I leave things out every time I go to talk about it. But that is something else, yes. But one thing he doesn't get any shit for, from a climate standpoint, is the Nord Stream. That's what Tucker Carlson brought up when he was interviewing the GOP candidates. Like, this was the largest emission of carbon, human caused, in world history.
Right.
Where are the environmentalists? Where are the science is real people with the lawn sign? Nowhere. Instead, we're going to hear what? Because what did he do?
In this house, we believe that Russia blew up the Nord Stream pipeline.
Russia blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Exactly. Comedy. Thanks, Keaton. That was my memoir joke, I believe. I saw that when you came in. Thank you, Joyce. And Cyrus is in the house. A member chat pulled out of Afghanistan and sanctioned them as a farewell gift. Yeah, like the idea that you would point to that as a success is quite extraordinary. If the reason he gets zero credit for pulling out of Afghanistan, and at first the anti-war people did give him credit for doing it despite the bungled execution, is because people thought, hey, maybe this is a signal that we're winding down the empire. A few months later, you found out, no.
He just needed the troops.
Right. We just needed the money and the troops and the weapons to send to Ukraine.
Yeah,
right?
They were gearing up for war with Russia. Little did we know.
All right, Russell, do you want to make that announcement?
All right. So we have never really been clear on what our policy is about being banned, because I don't think we've been completely clear about it ourselves, like what will get you banned from the interacting and from the chat. So, we had discussion about it. I feel like saying that you have to let everybody speak because you believe in free speech, that's like saying you can't bounce people from your bar because you believe in free speech. This is our living room. And I think if you are disruptive, not dissenting, not disagreeing, not even hating on us. I mean, anyone who's a regular in our chat knows we're not like that. You know, we have some regular hate watchers who come back again and again. That's fine. If
we love the poorly educated.
We love the poorly educated. We love the haters. Haters gonna hate, I heard once on the radio. But if you're disruptive, I think we have a certain responsibility to people who not only come to our chat, but come to our comment section. You know, there was a particular person after a long time of suffering through this maniac, I banned him because, hey, I would not want to come to the comment section of a channel that I know every time I come there, there's some fucking lunatic who I'm going to have to interact with. I would just stop commenting on that channel. And I would wonder why these people don't block this person who's harassing every single person who drops into the chat. So I feel we do have some responsibility, even to our people, to curate. Now, that doesn't mean you don't like the show, you don't like our face, we're going to block you. Nah, man. Nah. Well, in the history of the show, we've blocked 5 people who were not bots.
Yeah, don't harass and don't, make, extreme and highly personalized comments about the host or the guests. I saw a couple people, with certain guests on the show. The guests who are on the show make a point to be here, and so we want to afford them a certain respect. So that's, basically just be cool. Don't be an incessant disruptive troll to the point where people can expect you here trolling the comments and trolling the chat.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, if I see you every 5 comments, you're saying some fucking crazy shit that's annoying people. In terms of being personal, look, I attract this more than Keaton does. For whatever reason, I attract the psycho stalkers who are completely fucking obsessed with me. But should that happen to either one of us, it's at our discretion to block you. If you're a fucking freak who keeps dropping in and you're fixated on our noses or whatever the fuck it is, step off. Go find another channel to obsess on.
All right. But the chat has actually been great this evening. So
because I blocked the fucking psychos.
Well, you like what, 1 or 2? Kyle, Kelly Watson, 199. Just ruined base. Yes, indeed. All right. Sorry, we got to that one already. Franklin, we got to that one. Okay. Leave Kyle alone. He's in the process of transitioning. Very good. I see that. See, banned. You're banned. That's it. You're out. Just kidding. Now we should just go through and ban everybody. Kyle,
that's it. Ban. I'm going through the chat right now.
Biden approved tacos on Tuesday. Vote blue. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't mention Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday, indeed. He's transitioning into Anderson Cooper. Yeah, indeed. With the white hair and the shit takes. Yeah, indeed. Good point, Eric Huso. Kelly Watson, thanks for the $4.99. I should have voted for Biden. My brain, that's it. I'm out of here. That's all right. Exactly. I've never met a single person who didn't vote for Biden who regrets not having voted for Biden. Joyce, thank you for the donation. That's very generous. I want that debate now. I would pay. Joyce would pay for a Jimmy Dore versus Kyle Kulinski debate. Yeah, that would be a big event. I'm all for it. Like I said, I don't know if that's something they want to do. Kyle said he wanted to do it. I don't know if Jimmy would be up for it, but I would love to watch. I can only speak as an audience member. I would love to watch it. I hope Jimmy heard this and said, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." Yeah, the old Batman, right? You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Let me just answer somebody. Lisa Moika thinks she got banned early on. If you got banned, you wouldn't be here.
Yeah, if you got banned, you wouldn't be able to do comments.
You never got banned.
Sometimes YouTube does pull stuff for whatever guidelines violations that we can't control. But yeah, if you got banned, you wouldn't be able to chat.
If you're
or
here,
comment.
we never banned and unbanned anybody because we do it so rarely. There's literally 5 people we ever banned who were not bots.
Exactly. We're going to go to some Rumble rants. We don't want to forget about our Rumble friends. I'm just going to read these. I'm not going to copy and paste, and some of them are a little long to copy and paste. But Bowie75 gives a donation and said, I actually have a friend who works for Fox in NYC. Entire floors of leftist employees laughing their asses off all day at work. Weirdly, they pay well, are super generous, and treat employees great. Yeah, no, I mean, that's what New York City media world. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not that much different from any other place, I would imagine. Bonzo Beans, thanks for the donation on Rumble. I hear Kyle Kulinski is putting together a boy band first single Duck and Cover. Yeah, I mean, good name for their boy band. Ernest Dowson, thank you for the donation. $17, a generous donation. Thank you. Podcasts like Due Dissidents play an important role in countering official narratives, but I fear that they serve to many as a substitute for taking to the streets. Your thoughts? Well, I mean, there's always some danger in that, but, you know, I think, you know, a lot of people who engage with this content are pretty active themselves, and that's also why we like to platform people like Savage Joy, who walked the walk this last weekend. So, you know, hopefully we encourage that kind of thing with what we do. But yeah, I mean, look, there's always a phenomenon of armchair activism, but I think, you know, these spaces, we hope, and we're very lucky because of the chat that we have, which, you know, everybody says this is one of the best chats on YouTube. You know, everybody who watches us seems to think that this chat is a great space. Hopefully there's a community building aspect to the chat, to the interaction amongst the audience themselves. I think that's a big part of it.
There is a great sense of community in this chat that I'm not saying it doesn't exist anywhere else. I don't think I've ever seen it on any other show.
Yeah, indeed. Tusker, thank you for the $5. We appreciate that. Oops, what the hell happened? Oh, I had the Rumble chat open. I was checking to make sure we got everything, and the fucking
I was like, that sounds like me.
That's you. Well, because I had the Rumble chat on my phone, just keeping an eye on it, and
there.
Yeah, and the volume just kicked on when I refreshed it. It's arguments like these that are exactly the reason why I chose fascism to be my first long-form essay for Due Dissidents. So yeah, if you missed it, Tusker's going to start writing some monologues that she's going to record, and we're going to create into these pieces. And so
Tusker shit posts.
Right, exactly. Tusker's tanky tirades, we'll call them. There we go. Robert, thanks for the $5. Like Malcolm X said, wolves versus foxes. GOP are wolves, the obvious villains. Dems are the foxes who pretend to be on your side. Yes. It's getting so bad, though, I'm starting to think that actually the Republicans are the foxes, right? I mean, the Democrats are the wolves, right? Another issue Kyle completely ignored, free speech, censorship.
Yeah, not a word about it.
Nothing.
Not a word about it.
Oh, yeah, $15 minimum wage for federal contractors. And, you know, I mean...
If World War III and freedom of speech are your priorities, you really can't make the case for the Democrats.
Come on, Jimmy. I don't mean to, you know, instigate, but come on. The guy's coming on here saying he's the lesser evil because he gave a $15 minimum wage to federal contractors, made no use of Ukraine. Give him a debate. Come on, let's do it. Let's go. It'll be epic. Come on, let's do it.
But we'll reach out to Jimmy.
Just make sure you research that federal contractor minimum wage point. He might try and nail you on that. That's his best argument. So make sure you're versed on that shit, because that's a mistake you could make. Because oh wow, I didn't realize. I
will give you all the coaching you need on Marianne.
Right, exactly. Martini's Manicures, $4.99. Thank you. Crux of the student loan crisis, the total repeal of constitutional bankruptcy, Article 1, Section 8, restored, and this failed lending system will fail. Yeah, indeed. Thanks for the other $4.99. Alan Collins of Student Loan Justice would be a crucial interview if you guys, for you guys to explain current issues, inside issues on the crisis. How do we reach out? Well, the first step in reaching out is learning who he is, which I've just done because I had never heard that name before. But I'm very interested in this issue. I did my own shit post on this issue, and so I would love to do that. That's something I will do. So thank you for the donation and for the recommendation. The Lemon 8787, thanks for the $3. We appreciate that. Terry T, thanks for the $10. Thank you for the donations, folks. They really do help us a tremendous amount, so we really do appreciate it. Perot did 19% popular vote, but no electoral votes.
Yeah.
Well, that was the point that Kyle Kulinski made, is that, you got 19% of the popular vote, but you need a plurality in a state to win electoral votes. Yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, I don't really see what the point was that he was making there, except the point that, Zach tried to raise, which is that, hey, what if we can get where Ross Perot? Well, then they're going to demonize him, and he's going to get no electoral votes anyway.
They're going to be mean to him in the press.
They'll be mean. Kuznetsky was saying, thanks for the $4.99. We appreciate that. Jessica says, no, I'm in Delaware. Also, you're not in Florida. Okay, that was something from an earlier clip you guys were doing. Oh, okay, interesting. All righty. Roger Meadows, I like my coffee black like men, from Airplane. Thank you for the donation. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm just filtering out some of these. Just clearing the queue here. We're almost done, folks. Thank you very much for being here. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Follow button over on Rumble. Very, very important. Roy Astorietta, thanks for the $1.99. Hakuna Matata, what a wonderful sleigh for Lancey Pooh. Yeah. Yeah, that was quite something. Even Anna was quick to jump on just what a disastrous performance that was on the Tim Pool show. That's why we covered it, honestly, because I don't know Tim Pool to be a particularly insightful person, nor a particularly masterful debater. That's why, even someone like Emma Vigeland, who I'm not very impressed by, she went on there. She handled him fairly well. She debated him to a draw, right? Like, Tim Pool is not a chess master. He's not a chess master. You shouldn't go on there and just completely nosedive every chance you get on the Tim Pool show. Like, if you can't handle Tim Pool,
she handled herself like a girl who comes from a family of lawyers.
Yeah, exactly.
She didn't volunteer any more than she had to say. She kept everything very short, very to the point. She should try that more on the show she actually hosts.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Jake, thank you. See, what a producer. Another round of applause for Jake. Jake tells me here in the private chat that Tusker did comment in the response to Russell's question. She didn't know about the Hitler skull fragment being owned by Stalin or if it's real. Okay, so she doesn't. Okay. She can neither confirm nor deny that. But thank you, Jake, for catching that. What a pro.
She's not at a high enough level in the Politburo yet.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't give her that information.
For Russell, why is this for Russell? You don't think I know the Rush album? You don't think I know that album? I used to play that album quite a bit, Charlie. I'll have you know. Is Due Dissident's background? Yeah, from the Greatest Hits album Chronicles from Rush. I know what you're talking about. It actually is a similar color scheme, but no, it is not lifted from there. But I understand. It's that same sort of parchment paper, sort of beige tone. But yes, no, I know that album very well. I used to listen to that quite a bit. Back in my day, right? I'm younger than Russell, but I'm still old enough to the point where I remember the CD era. That album was great because it was 2 discs, something like 35 to 40 songs. And it saved you the money of having to go out and buy all the different Rush albums, because there was a lot of Rush albums, and they're very good. But when you're a teenager, you don't have money to spend on all of them. So yes, that was one of the essential Greatest Hits albums for me. So yes, I am very, very familiar with that scheme.
When I was a kid, everyone had Changes Bowie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Everyone had Bowie's Greatest Hits.
Yep. Indeed. Yeah, the Bowie Greatest Hits. There's a good Bowie Greatest Hits that came out more recently than that I had, for the same reason.
They released a lot after that.
Yeah,
but then, Changes, everybody had Changes. Everyone had that album.
Yep. Zach Boyles, thanks for the $4.99. Crystal and Kyle rebranding to Morning Wood to play on Morning Joe is pretty poor form. Plus, at his age, it's not even accurate unless they got a second Pfizer sponsor. I like that. That's clever. What did I just do? Okay, I think we're good. Bonus hole was the straw that broke the camel toe. Yeah. Clever. You guys got jokes tonight. You guys brought your A game for this one.
Best audience on YouTube.
Yes. You guys really brought your A game tonight. You got jokes. I dig it. Trump isn't an anti-war candidate. He almost started a war with Iran when he killed Qasem Soleimani unprovoked. He's either as weak as Biden or as evil. Well, there's a word I would like to highlight in your super chat there. That word is almost. right? I think that's the operative
well,
word.
I don't want to steal Keaton's act, but Keaton often makes this point. You know, as a New York real estate guy, Trump is a master of the art of how far can I push this?
Right. How far can I push the other person without them walking away, right? Without them blowing the deal being an analogy for war, right? So I've heard that point. Well, that was an act of war. Okay. Well, it didn't result in a war. He gave us a bunch of scares. I thought we were going to war with Iran at the time. We had an audio show at the time. We weren't on YouTube. I jumped on the microphone. I just recorded a quick solo podcast by myself the day that happened because I thought, oh, here we go. Here we go. He gave us a lot of scares like that with the North Korea. My button is bigger than yours. But I think he had an instinct for how far he could push things without starting a war. I'm not justifying that assassination, obviously. I don't think he should have done it. But the fact is, he gave us a few scares where we thought, okay, now is the time where this maniac gets us all killed, and it never happened. It never happened. Whereas the adult in the room takes charge, and a year in, we're on the brink of World War III, hundreds of thousands dead, right? No end in sight.
Look, you think that's scary. My associate here probably doesn't remember this. Well, he definitely wouldn't directly remember it. So Reagan, this was very infamous. They asked Reagan what he would do if the Russians said they were going to launch nukes. And his answer was, the button's getting pushed at my place in 5 minutes. Okay, I grew up under that. You wonder why all the Xers are so fixated on post-apocalyptic fiction? That's what we grew up with. Right. That fucking guy was president. Trump was quite mild by comparison.
Yeah. Anna has Rankin Bass Christmas eyes. Hope you're well. Do you get that reference? I'm too dumb for that reference. I don't get it. I'll admit.
It sounds familiar, but it went over my head too.
All right. Well, thank you, Bolo. We will look that up.
It's one of those things I know once I find out what it is, it's gonna Rankin Bass. What is?
All right. Russell's going to the fact checkers on that.
I'm going to
the due dissidence decision desk. Film.
Oh, TV. Right. Of course. How could I not know that? I did an entire Christmas sketch based on it. Rankin Bass, they were the guys who did the claymation Rudolph cartoons and all that.
That was the name of that studio? I thought I knew that.
Yes, I did a whole satire of that I mashed it up with Christina Aguilera's Beautiful video where, Rudolph and all of them are the people with body shame images. But at the end, they rip Santa's heart out and put it on the tree as a star.
Okay.
That was my interpretation.
A bunch of people in our audience knew that.
Yes.
They were
I was like, how do I not know that? I did an entire sketch built around that.
It's funny because we had a guy who used to give comic book tours of the city, and he knew where their office building was, and it was on the tour. But I don't remember that name at all for some reason.
Yeah.
For some reason, that name I do not remember that at all.
They were the ones who made all those.
All right, good. Learned something. Clove Coast, thanks for the $4.99. Appreciate it. A similar story about Fox as one of the previous super chats. I knew this student from the new school whose first job was Fox News. Pretty ironic. Yeah, from the new school of Fox News. I knew a guy, my uncle used to play in a band where the singer worked at Fox. He was like a production guy, like a PA or a grip or something.
Right.
And he actually did have Fox's politics. Yeah, but he was... a lot of the Fox News... look, a lot of the Republicans in New York, I mean, they are the Donald Trump Republicans. They're the tough talking, blustery, macho, nationalist Republicans. They're not like the Christian right or the right. They're their own breed, and so that's kind of what this guy was. But yeah, no, it doesn't fit the presentation of the good, wholesome, conservative, family values people. No, this is New York media. This is it's very, very competitive, and all that. Gray Ghost, thanks for the $10 super sticker, Gray Ghost. Appreciate that very, very much. Dwayne Vogel, Keaton has great taste in music. Well, thank you. Glad you appreciate it. Tusker says, if she became General Secretary, Hitler's skull is entrusted to me, and I get to put it on my mantle. Indeed. And Dwayne Vogel, can't wait to hear see Tusker shitpost tanky tirades. Yes, those will be fun. Those will be good. We are looking forward to that as well. We are looking forward to our next show, which will be Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. That is a split stream. We're getting red-pilled with the Clinton Thrill List. We're going with some new Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger reporting. And we should have a new monologue from Russ. We're not going to promise that now. I don't want to put too much pressure on the guy, but we'll try. But we're going to start here at 8 p.m. on YouTube on Wednesday, and then we will switch to Rumble midstream. We'll walk you through that. It worked out great last time. We had no problems, so we're very confident that'll happen again this time. That's all we got for tonight, is it not, my friend?
Hang on, we got another super chat, and I also starred something about Barbie.
What other super chat do we have?
Didn't I just see one come through? And
Very
I starred a non-super chat.
I don't see the non-super chat. Somebody asked us about Barbie.
Somebody asked, is that because it's doing so well financially, does it destroy the wokeness is ruining Hollywood narrative? So just in brief, we might actually subject ourselves to that this week. All this we did for thee. I would answer that this way. First of all, one movie does not compensate for the avalanche of bombs, one after the other, that all kind of have those themes.
It did well, though. It had a very good opening day.
It had a great opening day, and this is my overall answer on that. It's a girl brand. Like it's not the problem for that brand. In fact, it's pretty instructive. Okay, so you want to understand the backlash against putting a bunch of gender studies majors and setting them loose on Star Wars and Marvel. Imagine if you got Martin Scorsese and Jon Favreau to do the Barbie movie. How do you think women and girls would feel about that movie? Now, you want to say we want to expand the audience. You can expand the audience without hating the core fans. Now, whether you like it, don't like it, Star Wars and Marvel were traditionally boy brands. And Kathleen Kennedy and the people that she hired to handle it hated that fan base, and very consciously, rather than to expand the fan base, went out of their way to just savage those brands. So that's why you get this backlash, this woke backlash, because they took brands whose audience responds negatively to that, and not only stuffed it full of stuff they would react to negatively, but seemed to very intentionally and consciously in their interviews and their press attack those fans. Now, I think if you did a very male-centric kind of a Barbie, you'd get the same reaction, right? But you're not going to get that reaction. Like, it's a girl brand. It has, I guess, feminist messaging. I mean, what's the problem? Why would that hurt its box office?
All right. We got one more super chat while that came in. And that is from Jody Hovel. My recent DNA test proved I am of Ashkenazi descent. Well, welcome to the club.
Snap.
I hope you're from the same tribe as you guys.
Welcome.
Yeah, that's us.
Give us your address. We'll make sure they send you your Jew gold.
Yeah, exactly. That's us. You come to the right place. Come to the right place. All right, folks. We're going to be back here Wednesday night, 8 o'clock. That'll be a split stream. We will start the evening on YouTube. We will switch to Rumble halfway through. That was a great success last time. We're looking forward to it again. Got a nice, fun, half uncensored show for our lovely audience here on Wednesday. And then back again Friday. 3 shows a week right now, so it's great to see you guys as often as we do. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Like I said, you can support us at patreon.com/DoDissidents. or DoDissidents.substack.com to help keep the show going. You could also become a member right on YouTube by hitting that join button right near the subscribe button. Go to DoDissidents.substack.com and sign up to our Substack. Even if you cannot become a paid subscriber, it's great if you become a free subscriber. It's just an email list. We send out alerts when we are going to go live. You'll get an alert the day of. And we also publish all of our live streams in audio podcast form through Substack, where it gets blasted out to all the major podcast players. So if you guys are not subscribed to us on your audio podcast player, please do, since if you miss a show and you're driving around, you can listen on your podcast player. So thank you guys all very much for being here. We had a wonderful time. This was a great show. You guys were a wonderful audience. Thank you again to Jake for producing for us in the back room, and thank you guys all for being here. We will see you next time. Until we do meet again, as always, be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.